The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Hikaleo.
I am ELP.
And this is Keeping It Strong Style.
We love you.
Mwah.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review the Road to Tokyo Dome and discuss the categories and awards in our 8th annual year-end awards. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice, and leave a rating and review. You also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. That's chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want access to the weekly live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Yeah, we got the Christmas tree with the lights going here in the background. Got the Santa hat on, Bullet Club representing the Biz Cliz. This Christmas is going to be just too sweet. No, I'm just playing. This is probably the closest we've ever recorded to Christmas, I'm pretty sure.
Probably. I'd have to go back and see, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever fallen this close. So, while some of the other podcasts on this network are taking it easy, taking the week off, the night off and everything, the most grizzled, young, vetted podcast on this network, Keeping It Strong Style. We're still here producing top end content and ready to break down Road.
Yeah. Speaking of people taking time off, there is a podcast out if you're looking for a One Nation Radio. They are off this week, but the 2024 FOH draft has dropped today. It's now live on our PayHip store, payhip.com/social suplex. So it's our Christmas tradition, 8 years going. Lots of downloads already on the FOH draft this year. So make sure you don't want to miss that out. That's the hosts of Keeping It Strong Style, us and One Nation Radio, get together. Like I said, 8 years. We get some drinks. We bury everything that we hated in wrestling for the year, and it's a fun time.
Yeah, and it's hard to encapsulate and describe to you the debauchery that is FOH. It is literally unfiltered, uncensored, just four best friends ripping shit to bits, completely shooting from the hip on everything that we hated in professional wrestling. And if you're listening, you're very likely someone of a like-minded, ness, or, you're a smart fan. So when you hear it, you're going to hear us say the things that you probably have wanted to say all year that other shows, other pundits out there maybe don't have the gumption to say themselves, or they're too sober to say the things that we have said on that show. So definitely well worth it. And it's, pay what you want, what you think is worth it. And everyone loves it. You know, it's one of those things where every year I do the show afterwards, feel a little bit like, did I take it too far this year? Like, was it too much? And then everyone's like, this is the best FOH you've ever done. And I'm like, no, it was worth it.
We're getting a lot of great feedback thus far. So like I said, that is available on our PayHip store, payhip.com/social suplex. Like Young Boy said, it's pay what you want. We suggest $5, but it's up to you. Yeah, minimum. But we have people, drop 50, drop 100 on this thing. So it's whatever you want. And remember, if you
let me tell you guys one. I'm gonna crack one open for the working man. Speaking of FOH,
Jumbo getting a drink there. But yeah, if you drop 0 on FOH, Rich will come and find you and get that download away from you.
Bro, he's a yellow belt now. You don't want to fuck with Rich, bro.
That's right, doing a taekwondo.
He's beating up little kids and shit. It's amazing. I sent him a meme one time recently of like this guy at a dojo like grabbing a kid by the feet and like literally like Cesaro spinning him, but like in a real life. Man, one of my favorite things online is just finding adults at karate gyms beating up little kids. Like, I don't know, it's just the funniest shit to me. It's like Dwight Schrute when he was training in karate with all the little kids and shit.
Then something else to plug, like I mentioned in the intro, we are going to discuss the nominees and categories in our year in awards. So the voting is open for that. The ballot is live. Already had some early votes come in. A good chunk of voters already got their ballots in, but the ballot is open for that. And we'll go over all the categories and nominees later here on the show. But make sure you get the votes. Links will be in the description on our Twitter account, Blue Sky, Facebook, or Discord, wherever you can connect with us. The link will be there. If you're not on social media, you need a ballot, you can hit me up, email me, I'll send you a ballot, and let's get those votes in.
Yeah, and do us a favor. If you're listening right now and you're involved in any sort of group, whether that's a private chat, whether that's a like a Facebook group or what have you, Discord server, there's a million different places where people talk about wrestling and congregate. If it's allowed, go ahead, grab a copy of our link and just share it somewhere, where other pro wrestling, most likely New Japan wrestling fans kind of congregate. You could do that Reddit, wherever it takes you. But help us spread the word. It costs you nothing. It takes a moment of your time. And we'd like to get this ballot in front of as many eyeballs as possible so we can get, the largest sample size that we possibly can, so that the Western voices here in, America and in the West can have our voices be heard by, President Tanahashi and the staff. So,
yeah. And also as a bonus, thank you. Everybody that votes will be entered for a chance to win premium Keeping It Strong Style pullover hoodie with the red icon on the front of the hoodie. By voting.
Well, I voted. So if I get picked, do you buy me a hoodie? Is that what we're doing here?
If it lands on one of us, I'll probably randomize it to a non-social suplex.
That's bullshit.
All right, well, let's jump into it. We got the Road to Tokyo Dome, the Christmas Corkins that happened today and yesterday. So we'll start off with December 22nd. So the show opened up. We had the Chase Your Dream match with Hiromu Takahashi defeating Shomakato in 6 minutes and 8 seconds. So the whole gimmick here is the Young Lions got to pick a member of the main roster they wanted to face. This was something they did back in the day, and it actually used to be a whole card of Young Lions challenging main roster talent. So kind of bringing it back here in this pre-show format. And Shomakato choosing Hiromu here, but unfortunately he got the loss to the Time Bomb.
I just realized, when did Oleg Boltin graduate?
After he beat Tanahashi in the G1 qualifiers.
He should have been on the ballot as Young Lion of the Year potentially.
Yeah, I guess we probably should.
That's too late. We can't. It's too late.
Too late now. There's Tons of votes.
Can't take it back. But stop the steal. Yeah, no, this was fine. The fun, interesting aspect of this part of the car. Obviously, these Road to Tokyo Dome shows in Cork, they're sort of like a mixed bag. They're almost like a little bit similar to what you sort of expect with New Beginning, but like the opposite, whereas like that one's like kind of fresh and exciting. This is like the tail end, and there's a lot of kind of unexpected matches, previews going to the Tokyo Dome. So it's like the other side of the coin of New Year's Dash. And the fun and exciting part with this match was, and the other Chase Your Dreams matches, is that we knew which rookies / Lions were going to be involved, but we didn't know what veterans they were going to be faced off against. So it's got a little bit of that mystery vortex feel to it. And when it was Hiromu, made all the sense in the world. He's got to, get some tune-up action going, because he's got the big match with Naito here coming up in just under 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Naito wasn't on the tour because he was recovering from left eye surgery, and they explained it on commentary that he was getting left eye surgery to balance out all the surgeries that he's had on the right eye, is what the deal was.
Yeah, I was confused by that. I was like, I thought we had heard he couldn't get any more surgeries, but he's getting another. And then it was like, okay, it's on the opposite eye. So dude's all sorts of fucked up. Like, makes sense why he lost the title. He's not even seeing right. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, this was fine. A good little showcase. I don't feel like they gave a lot to the young Lion here, but that's sort of to be expected, because Hiromu's a big star. He's got a big match coming up in the Tokyo Dome, and they gave a couple minor hope spots, but I think the story of the match was how long can the Lion last against Hiromu, who's on a warpath getting prepped for Naito.
Yep. So Shomakato lasting 6 minutes and 8 seconds here. Put up a good fight. Hiromu.
And that's longer than some of us last.
Hiromu locking on the
what I'm saying.
locking on the Boston Crab here to get the submission on Shomakato. I thought Kato looked good. Did a great job selling, especially when he was in the Boston Crab position there. And so ended up having to tap out here. Good opener for the show. So moving on from there, the main card opened up. We had Boltin Oleg defeating my man Satoshi Kojima, the MLW World Champion and Tag Team Champion, in 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is that aspect where we could talk about the interesting part of it, that Kojima is a minor company's minor/major, because it is in the name, Major League Wrestling, but they are kind of considered minor here in the States. But a bigger group, and their champion is losing to what would probably be classified as a super rookie. But all the same, like, I don't think that they care. Like, they don't. MLW has no pull on the booking in New Japan. I don't think that they even hope or imagine that their audience is. Dude, all Corp cares about is that the MLW title is seen in Japan. He's gonna take a clip of Kojima like layering Boltin Oleg and just be like, the MLW title was in Japan this month. Like that's all he wants to do. Bro, they used to do that on WCW. They would lie about the results of matches that happened in Japan. They would, bro. They did that shit.
Yeah, because it was hard to get a hold of that stuff.
you couldn't get away with that in Philly, though. You try to lie about some shit in the ECW arena, and someone fight you, bro.
Yeah, so good hard hitting matchup here. I thought Boltin looked really good. So again, Boltin getting him in some situations there with some veteran guys, kind of a hard hitting matchup, and again, very similar to his G1, where they're kind of giving him these kind of good formulaic matches to work and kind of really master there. And I thought the finish was really cool. Kojima going for the lariat. He catches him in mid-run and does the kamikaze to get the win. So good stuff there from that matchup. And then we move on. We had the House of Torture, Ren Narita and Yujiro Takahashi defeating Jacob Austin Young and Jeff Cobb and Hartley Jackson and Ray Oiwa in 30 minutes and 44 seconds. And very short matchup here, but that was because this was all leading to an angle. So we had Narita and Takahashi in the ring after they cheated to win. And then out comes Jado dressed up as Santa Claus with a reindeer. And since he has a special gift for Ren Narita, gives him a box. He opens it. It's the light up ELP glasses. The music hits. ELP defeats cancer, makes his return, comes out. Crowd's going crazy. He clears the ring. He holds up the TV title as Cobb and Oiwa come up and say let's make this a 4-way. So it is official now that the 3-way match is now a 4-way match at Wrestle Kingdom for the NJPW World TV title.
That's why I'm drinking Molson, Canada. Support my boy ELP. This was a really I thought significant moment, and the audience was very rabid and excited to see the return of ELP here. And I thought he got a great reaction. He looked great. Very happy to hear that he's in good health and able to compete. And I thought that this was a welcome addition to a match that prior, for whatever reason, and I think we've talked about it a bit, we'll probably dive a bit more deeply next week when we do our preview show, but I thought that triple threat match was a little bit lackluster for a variety of reasons. And now this new element, adding ELP, just really does work for me and kind of takes it to a different level and adds a bit of unpredictability, which is kind of nice on these Road 2 shows. We've gotten some shifts in the direction of various different matches on the road to the Tokyo Dome. So like, even though we had a final card that we thought was set, it's been adjusting as these shows go on, and it's made these shows a little bit more worthwhile to watch, even if they're just, kind of for the most part, fun matches and fun preview. Significant things are happening here, and this is one example of that.
Yeah, so very good to see ELP coming back, beating cancer. Very good news there. And so, yeah, exciting mix-up to get him in this matchup. Like you mentioned, we just had a 3-way recently for the TV title with Tsuji, Cobb, and Narita. So, yeah, it did kind of feel like lackluster and just kind of repeat, just replacing.
I think you mean triple threat.
Just replacing Oiwa and Tsuji. So to have a, as John Moxley would say, a fatal 4-way.
Fatal 4-way.
For the TV title. I think it definitely makes it a little bit more interesting. And I feel like ELP was going to kind of be in that mix anyway, because he was supposed to be teaming with Tanahashi in the World Tag League, and obviously Tanahashi's feuding with House of Torture. So I feel like he might have found his way in that mix anyway. So it's good that he's back, that he's healthy, and he's on this card. And yeah, he will make this matchup a little bit more interesting come January 4th. We did have several questions here. First from Reddit user Crack Messiah. How do you think NJPW should treat ELP with its return? Does he beat Narita?
What kind of name is Crack Messiah?
I don't know. Guess they
my God.
They love crack and they love the Lord. So
this is popping me. Oh man, more than it should. Yeah, I don't know exactly how they do deal with how they handle him. They could just continue to do what they've done in the past. I think that one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And when it comes to ELP, like, it's time to stop the edging. You get them to a certain point time and time again, but it doesn't even feel like remember Juice, when Juice was on his journey to become a guy, and every time he lost, it felt like it was a step forward still. Like, it felt like there was an actual impetus and trajectory and path in front of him. With ELP, it's kind of felt lackluster ever since he became a heavyweight and left the junior division. Like, he's been all over the place, and he's never really seemed to find his significant spot. The one time where it felt that way was him in GOD 2.0 when they won the tag titles like a year ago. And, we all know how that ended. So it's gotten to this point where it's like you have to shit or get off the pot with this guy. And on the one hand, I'm a little bit apprehensive because it's like they have a couple of young guys in that match, and we've advocated so long for them to push those guys, but there's also a hierarchy, and it's like, how many years have we been waiting for them to like actually do something with ELP? And you know, I feel like with the momentum of him coming back from this illness is the perfect reason to, you know, give him a push and see if he has the goods or not.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has that crowd connection. Yeah, the crowd was super happy to see him back, and you know, they know the story, know what he's been through. And so, yeah, I think now is definitely time to, you know, capitalize on that connection and, yeah, give him the push because, you know, he is only getting older. And like you mentioned, there's a pipeline of young guys that are trying to climb their way up the card and kind of solidify their spots as top guys in New Japan. And something we talked about last week on the crossover episode with Super J-Cast, you know, I was talking about, you know, New Japan should work on, you know, kind of creating their own foreign stars. You know, they have a ton of guys on their roster that are foreigners. Like, instead of just trying to grab your AEW guy, your former WWE guy, like, invest in the guys you have, and, you know, maybe they'll actually stay. And so I think with El Fantasma, we know he's a guy that is also looking at his contract dates and money. You know, we interviewed him and Hikuleo around this time last year, and, you know, they were trying to float the whole contract stuff out there. And so he's definitely a guy that is paying attention to when those contracts are up. So if I'm New Japan, I'm investing in him. I'm showing that we can do right by him and use him as a star and really elevate him and kind of get him up there in that top foreigner spot alongside guys like Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, I agree.
We also had a question here from Def Triangle 720. With the addition of ELP in the TV title match, do you think it has boosted the Wrestle Kingdom card?
I do. I think it's always fun and exciting to get surprises that were unexpected. For all the detractors that are out there, and there are quite a few people that are not fans of ELP, which, you know, once upon a time I was probably amongst them, but in this current iteration, I think he's a fantastic worker, fantastic character guy. And there's so few people in the company current day that can do the things that he can do. So having a talent of that caliber on the show really just adds to it more so than anything else. And, you know, brings intrigue and draws attention to the match. And I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Definitely a great addition to get some more interest for the card. Rambone says, can you give your thoughts on the surprise return and what you think a likely role for ELP will be in 2025?
The one thing I was a little bit nervous about was, did they do it too soon? You know what I mean? Because apparently he just had surgery 6 weeks ago. And maybe there's a different way that they could have built up his return instead of like doing it as a surprise. But, you know, I'm not the booker and I'm not creative. So, you know, far be it for me to say that this was for sure the wrong move. I don't know that it is, but I'm just thinking of alternatives. You know, like when Tanahashi almost died, there was a long period of like wanting him to return and everything like that. And so I just wondered if they could have drawn on the sympathy of the fans and the audience a little bit more, but there's probably that desire to get him on the Tokyo Dome card. I'm sure he didn't want to miss the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's probably why they did what they did here. And it got a great reaction.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if it would have been a different time of the year, maybe you could have drawn it out a bit and built up the anticipation for his return. But with the Wrestle Kingdom coming up right around the corner, Tokyo Dome, you want to get that big payday, get him on that card. I think this was a good move. Like I said, it came off really well. Great angle, great surprise. Because I was not even expecting him to be back at all. Because there was really no update after kind of the initial, like,
right.
You know, he has cancer. So, yeah, that was a very good surprise there. Everybody very happy. So, yeah, I think it all worked out well. As far as how the role he'll play in 2025, I mean, like we said, I like to see him get pushed and be utilized as a top foreigner. Kind of get a spot in for him. I think he can definitely be a guy that's in that kind of global title scene, TV title scene, and kind of be in that upper mid-card mix. So following that, we had the preview for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight match at Wrestle Kingdom. We had El Desperado and Master Wato. They defeated the Just Four Guys team of Doki and Taka Michinoku in 8 minutes and 35 seconds.
Fine opener or a fine preview match. A lot of history with some of these guys with one another, going back to the Suzuki Gun and even the Kojima Gun days. So, there's kind of that to play on, but I don't really have much more to say about this. This was, it was a good preview match, and I am looking forward to the Doki Despy, IWGP Junior title match.
Yeah, that should be a fun matchup. So Despy getting the win here, getting the numero dos onto Taka Michinoku for the submission victory. Then following that, we had a preview for the IWGP Junior Tag Team match at Wrestle Kingdom in a four-way match. So this was kind of the part two of what we saw at the US show, Strong Style Evolved. So this time we had Robbie Eagles defeating Drilla Maloney, Francisco Akira, and Kevin Knight in 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, I thought that this match was a level below what we saw in Long Beach, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just had a different kind of expectation given its slotting on this card with it being a road to Tokyo Dome. So they didn't go out there to blow people away. There's still some good athleticism, and it was a good little preview. But ultimately the main purpose of the match was so that most of the only one who didn't come out was Fujita, but everybody else that's involved in the four-way tag match at the Tokyo Dome, they all came out, they all jaw-jacked with each other. There was an attack from the Bull Club War Dogs, and everybody else fought them off. So, just kind of adding a bit more heat to that match come Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, towards the end here, Akira accidentally hit the ref. Then Clark Connors ran out the crowd, hit Akira with a chair. Then Kevin Knight got hit with a chair. Then TJP ran in, and everybody's brawling. Then Eagles was able to get the roll up on Drilla to get the win here. And then also post-match, you had Kushida coming out. And like you mentioned, all the participants were out there kind of jaw-jacking and fighting and running off the War Dogs. So then after that, we had a preview for the IWGP Global title match. We had Bushi, Shingo, and Yota Tsuji. They defeated the Bullet Club War Dogs team of David Finlay, Gato, and Sonata.
Match was fine. I guess the main thing that I was paying attention to more so than anything else were the interactions between between Yota Tsuji and David Finlay. And not to say that David Finlay listens to us necessarily, but we have been advocating on this show that he size himself up. And I don't know if you noticed, but he's looking burlier lately.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, and not in a bad way. There's a couple guys on the way to the Tokyo Dome. They're looking a little softer than they normally do. They're looking not as lean, not as cut. And I'm wondering, are those, little telltale signs that certain people may or may not be, walking out of, the Tokyo Dome with gold. But I don't get that feeling from David Finlay necessarily. And that's not my official prediction, but he's looking like a guy, win, lose, or draw, who's got a date in the future with Destiny because he's putting on size and he's putting on muscle. And I think it's interesting.
Yeah. That'll definitely help him in that match of Brody King. So definitely wants to get as much size on as possible. But yeah, definitely looking, kind of filling out more.
You can put on as much size as you want for that one. It's not going to help.
But yeah, so feeling looking good here. Good interactions between him and Tsuji. Towards the end of this match, it was Tsuji hitting the Gene Blaster on Gato to get the win for LIJ. And then post-match, Tsuji and Finlay were brawling, and Tsuji ended up laying out Finlay with the Gene Blast. So then following that, we had the TMDK team of Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi and Shota Umino in a preview for the main event for the world title at Wrestle Kingdom.
I had a run in here. You're attacking me. Yeah, my dog's attacking me. He wanted to be with me. I don't know. What did you say?
Talking about Vegeta and Saber defeating Tanahashi and Umino.
Okay, yeah. So that was the preview match for the main event at Tokyo Dome. Good reactions to all guys involved. I thought it was a solid match. Maybe not something that when I was watching, I was like, oh, I cannot wait for this Tokyo Dome main event. But I've thought a lot of the preview tags that have involved Zack Sabre Jr. and Shota Umino, they've been good to great. And this was very good. It was solid. And I also thought it was a good way for Tanahashi and Fujita to get some reps in too.
Yeah, really good matchup. Like we said, kind of like in World Tag League, like Zack and kind of whoever he's teaming up with from TMDK, whether it's Oiwa or Fujita, like they just go out and they work super hard. And yeah, I thought this was a great preview match. I think Zack and Umino do have really good chemistry. And so like I've said, like, I think the in-ring standpoint, the match is going to be, I think, great. I think it's just been some of the build and how we got Umino in the spot that's been kind of off. But this was a good preview here. And you had a junior in here that could have ate the pin, but Zack ends up hitting the Zack driver on Tanahashi to get the win here.
Yeah, that was a really strong message to kind of drive the point home that like Zack is, in kayfabe, a top line dog in this company right now. The fact that he can get a meaningful pinfall victory over Tanahashi on the way to the Tokyo Dome, that's a message. So,
yeah. So then that took us to the main event for the Provisional KOPW Championship. It was a 2 out of 3 falls, and we had Great Okan retaining here over Taichi in 34 minutes and 24 seconds. So the first fall was a no-rope sumo rules match, which Taichi ended up getting the win there in 1 minute 57 seconds. We then had a special guest referee for the second fall where Kanemaru was the guest referee. And so this is kind of Taichi got to pick, some of the stipulations that he did in KOPW. And so at one point when Kanemaru was still in just 5 guys, he was a referee in one of those matches. So Kanemaru being the referee here, but Great Okan ends up paying off Kanemaru to kind of cheat for him. So Okan gets the win there. And then the last fall was a last man standing match, and they went to a draw after 23 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yeah. I hated this match. I really couldn't get into it, and I think you did a good job recapping the action, what took place there. Considering who was involved, that it was Taichi and Great Okan, there's certainly a version of that match that is miles better than what this was. But unfortunately, it was very much hampered by all of the shtick and all of the different stipulations that were imposed on the match. And plus these guys, looking to have the quote unquote KOPW Great Okan epic, telling a story. And it just did not land for me. It was way overly long. I thought that this was a really good Korakuen crowd. They were at times entertained, but I think even for them, this was overly long and they kind of lost the crowd. The only time it really picked up was that last man standing last fall when they went into the crowd. And I was like, oh, they're going to turn up right here. And then it just got hampered by the most, melodramatic best, last man standing type fall match that you could possibly imagine. Where it's just like overly long counts, super bumbling, it was just too much, man. I hated it.
Yeah, Witt's chiming in here saying I didn't like the match either. I think that the parts of the last man standing towards the end were entertaining. Obviously, the big spot there of that part was Taichi doing the Eliminator to Great Okan off the stage through a table. Okan getting his back slashed. They said on commentary the next day he had to be rushed to the emergency room to kind of close up that gash he had on his back. But besides that, everything else was kind of goofy. Obviously, you had a sumo match, which was it was pretty quick, but that's kind of a weird thing. And then they kind of wasted time because that was the first fall. So they took the ropes down, did a sumo, and they had to wait for them to put the ropes back together so they can do a special referee. And then you had all the normal special referee haha with Kanemaru counting slow for Tai Chi, fast for Okan, ignoring all of Okan's stuff. And so the typical, guest referee stuff. And then finally the last man standing. And it kind of started off hot because they're brawling out through the crowd, the big table spot. But then, like you mentioned, they go into the whole melodramatic, move 10 count, move 10 count. It's like, oh my gosh.
Bro, I hated it.
So it ended up being a draw. It was a double 10 count, and so they're all wondering what's going to happen. And they make the announcement that since Great Okan was a champion and it's a draw, champion's advantage, he wins and he's officially the KOPW champion for 2024. But then he gets on the mic and gives some great news that he is retiring the KOPW title. And his last act as champion, he wants the Rambo turned into a #1 contendership match for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So that has all been made official now. So no more KOPW. Great Okan, the last KOPW champion. It's the last KOPW match. And the Rambo has been spiced up now with the winner getting a title shot. And we had several questions about the retiring of the KOPW title.
Before you jump into those questions, I just want to say, if Gorilla Monsoon had been the commissioner at the end of this match, he would have come out and ordered them to go to a sudden death overtime. I'm just saying. We're going to have a winner.
Yeah, they should have.
Going to have a winner, period.
So Dark Soldier says, with KOPW now being abandoned and the Rambo now a title shot with the IWGP belt, is that the equivalent of being told you're going to a knockoff Chuck E. Cheese's, only be told you're now going to Disney World, or being told you're going to watch Battlefield Earth, only to then watch Shawshank Redemption, the greatest movie ever made?
Well, some people feel that way, but yes, it's a popular take. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge, huge upgrade, and it leads me to believe that the Rambo, not only does it have more serious implications, but the style of match, the participants involved. I'm hoping that they don't keep it the goofy KOPW, the goofy Rambo, and then, I don't know who's a name that could be a really good title challenger.
I'm trying to think because a lot of guys are already booked for the main card. I mean, there are guys like Sonata that are not on 1-4. Great Okan is not on 1-4. Right, Tai Chi.
Let's put it this way. It's the goofy Rambo, and then at the end, Minoru Suzuki makes his return, comes in, and starts pile driving people and getting them fuck out of there. That's not what I want. I want everybody going balls to the wall. Like it's a Royal Rumble trying to win that shit because it's actually got title implications. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, it's a huge, huge upgrade. Plus, we don't ever have to watch KOPW ever again. And it's one of the biggest failures of the post, pandemic era of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And thanks, Kazuchika Okada. You got the fuck out of here. So does your belt.
Yeah, I think that we can take a victory lap here because, there are people that are like, yeah, KOPW is great. It's so fun. It's lighthearted. It changed things up. They're, they're doing stuff with the rural revitalization and attracting that crowd. But at the end of the day, it's going away. And it's like, we've been saying this since it came out. Like we didn't need more titles. We didn't need this gimmick title. And so
we don't need farmer fans. We need the ones with the yen in Tokyo.
Big business.
The yen is down.
Def Triangle 720 says, with KOPW title retiring, do you think this means the company may be shifting other titles as well?
I hope so. I think that's a good step in the right direction at the very least. So maybe.
Yeah. Sam Eat 2007 saying, what are your opinions on KOPW being retired and the Rambo now being for number one contendership for the world title? So we kind of touched on that. But I will say I agree with you as far as the Rambo part. I do think that now that it's kind of like a Royal Rumble now. Like I do feel like you need to up the star quality on there. So obviously there, like I mentioned, there's upper mid card guys like Sonata, Taichi, Great-O-Khan. They'll probably all be in this thing, and you do have a lot of AEW talent that will be there.
I was thinking about that.
1-5. So I mean, you can throw Brody King in this thing. A lot of the other AEW guys that'll be there that are not already in title matches. You can throw in here. So yeah, I try to make this as entertaining and exciting as possible, and really up the star quality for this thing.
You could bring in an outsider like from, let's say, Noah, Kano or something.
Yeah,
really shake things up.
Yeah, and then also there will be CMLL guys will be there as well for that Lucha Gauntlet the next night. So I mean, you can throw some of those guys in there as well.
They can be in it, but they can't win it.
Well, we'll see if Mystico comes over.
That's different. Do you remember the 95 the 95 Royal Rumble when I think it's Mil Mascaras, he comes in, he goes to the top rope and he dives to the outside he does a plancha so nobody would eliminate him.
No job.
That's gonna be that's gonna be Mystico doing some shit like that.
What do you mean I can't plancha? I'm eliminated. Oh well.
I'm eliminated. Oh, that's too bad.
Rambone says, what is your favorite KOPW match in the brief and ignorable history of the cursed belt, and what was the worst?
So I feel bad because I saw that question. I did some digging and I was like, what are the worst matches and what are the best matches? And I had a list, but I keep forgetting that when I'm actually recording on my phone, I can't use my phone, which I usually rely on that a lot while we're doing the show. So I'm like, fuck, I don't have the list anymore. But I think I can kind of tell you what the best matches and worst matches were off the top of my head. So the worst matches, I'll tell you right now, the very, very, very worst one, believe it or not, it's the that Royal Revitalization, Tongaloa versus Great-O-Khan. That's probably the worst one. Another strong contender is the I Quit match between Chase Owens and Toriano during. Do you remember that shit?
Yeah,
they did it in the stadium, in the GU stadium,
Grand Slam or whatever.
It's so bad. Another really bad one. Oh, the 22-man Rambo where it was eliminations and handcuffs.
Yeah,
that was one of the worst ones. And I checked these all out in Cage Match. There was exactly 4 matches that were all in the 2-star range, and those 3 were in it. The other one was the I don't even know what the type of match was, but it was some sort of darkness match with Evil and Yano.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the stipulation was. I just know it was shit, whatever that was.
It was like the lights would go off after every certain like after 30 seconds or something like that. It was like intervals where the lights would go on and off, something like that.
So those are your 4 worst. Most of them involved Yano, although Okan was in one of them. The best matches were the last man standing lumberjack match from Just Tap Out, where that was Taichi and Shingo. And then there was another Taichi Shingo match where it was one of those Takagi. It was the 3
Takagi style. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the Takagi style triad match. Another one of the best matches was Shingo versus Hanare
in the ultimate triad
match. And then there's one other really great match that I'm forgetting, and it's from the same year. And I'm pretty sure it's Shingo and Taichi again.
Yeah, because they had a series of matches that year for KOPW.
But yeah, I mean, those when Shingo had the title, and when him and Taichi were trading the title back and forth, that's when it was, them and Hanare. That was the best period.
Yeah. Then last,
I think I like the Just Tap Out match the best.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I like the Hanare and Shingo, the ultimate triad. I thought that was a great match.
That one's fantastic. Yeah.
Doc says, with the death of KOPW, could New Japan be attempting to clear out all extra belts, or was this just the one they see no value in? What other titles should be retired?
I mean, at the very minimum, I don't think that the strong belts really make a lot of sense at this point. I feel like strong in general needs an overhaul. So it'd be a wise decision to consolidate those. You know, seemingly you don't need them anyways. Or, you know, if you did want to keep just, say, the men's strong single title, maybe that would make sense. But we don't need 2 women's titles. We don't need, you know, 3 tag team titles, you know, in the company. That just doesn't make sense. So at the very least, those KOPW is gone. So that's great.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay with most of the other titles, really. They got rid of the US and replaced it with the new version of the IC.
Yeah, I think the strong titles, all 3 of them are pretty much, it would be the number ones on my chopping list because, like we talked about last week, I think the strong brand kind of weakens the New Japan shows in America. I think you just call them, you know, New Japan, whatever, you know, Battle in the Valley. You don't need a strong logo on there. It doesn't need to be called strong. You don't need a strong ropes, ring mat, whatever. Just have it be a New Japan show and bring over the IWGP titles for that show.
Could either get rid of Never or the TV title, depending on what you were inclined to do with the direction of the company. I think that there's an argument to be made or to be had for either of those 2, not both of them, but one or the other potentially going away. I think the Never would be better to keep. I could see a world where they kind of decide that the TV title experiment didn't play out the way they hoped it had.
Yeah.
Or would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if they keep both of them, but if I had to choose one, I would choose keeping the Never, just with the history and that style of match. I think that fits, you know, the New Japan house style, and you have a lot of guys that can work that style, and you can kind of do the TV style match with anybody without necessarily having a title. So
could get rid of the juniors.
Junior tag titles?
No, all of them.
Yeah, I'd be open for unifying the junior tag titles with the heavyweight titles. We've been saying that for years.
We get rid of junior. Everything's open weight. And next year, it's not best of the super junior. It's just best of the super. And
so it's just G1.
No, it's different. It's best of the super. Yeah. So let's do that.
All right, well, let's jump to today's show from Korakuen Hall, December 23rd. Once again, also forgot to mention, in these openers, we've also had Tsuji coming out as some kind of masked tomato, something.
They said his name, but I didn't know who the fuck he was or what he was saying or what the point of it was. So
it's like some sponsor tomato something gimmick, and
at least it wasn't
masked horse.
So whatever.
Yeah, Tsuji did that both nights. So then this night we had another Chase Your Dream match, and it was Katsuya Murashima who's attempting to chase his dream, and similarly he picked Hiromu Takahashi for his challenge here, and he lasted 5 minutes and 53 seconds, so just a few seconds short to Shoma Kato. So even though both men lost here, you can kind of say that Shoma Kato, quote unquote, won because he lasted longer with Hiromu than Murashima did.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. It's wash, rinse, and repeat from a lot of what I said from the prior night, but you're correct.
Yeah.
Shoma Kato comes out looking better than Murashima.
Yeah, and then post-match, Naito makes a surprise appearance here, and him and Hiromu are exchanging moves there, and then he does, of course, the whole like Tranquilo fist up, and Hiromu wasn't playing that, dropped him right in his head. And so
I loved the commentary team where Chris Charlton was saying, like, this is, been building for 15 years, and it's only going to happen once. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, I was like, is it only going to happen once? Is this Rock Cena once in a lifetime? I don't know. But let's say it really does only happen one time. That makes it a lot bigger than what I was anticipating, and makes the situation like, whoa, what the fuck do they do? Do they crown Hiromu and have him go over Naito in a, career defining win? Or is this like, nah, that's not for you, baby. And just tell us Naito's still the man, that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Hiromu, he got on the mic and he said that on January 4th, I will crush you, Naito. So getting a little bit of heat there for that matchup. So yeah, it's going to be pretty intriguing what happens there. So then we jump into the main card. Show opens up with a special singles match. We had Jeff Cobb defeating Hartley Jackson in 7 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, Hartley Jackson, the guy that we probably could have included in Newcomer of the Year, but it was so recent. He might be better suited for next year's ballot, provided he sticks around. But his first singles match in New Japan, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good match. I thought good performance from these guys. Pretty much what you'd want it to be from two heavy hitting, crowd favorites.
Yeah, fun, beefy guys hitting each other, suplexing each other. Cobb eventually hits the tour of the islands, which looks pretty impressive on a guy that size of Hartley Jackson. So Cobb getting the win there, getting some momentum going into the 4-way TV title match. So then following that, we had a non-title tag team title match with the Ichiban Sweet Boys taking on the Intergalactic Jet Setters. This ended up going to a no contest after 5 minutes and 12 seconds when you had...
As soon as it started, I was just like, of course they're doing a Paul Heyman special. Like, how did we not see this last week? I guess we didn't spend that much time previewing it, but if we'd even given like just an ounce of energy to actually peering into the thing, I'm pretty sure you and I would have called this ahead of time. Yeah,
so Clark and Drill hit the ring with chairs, and they're beating down Sweet Boys and Jet Setters with the chairs. So yeah, ref throws it out, no contest. And then TJP and Francisco Akira run down, like you mentioned, that leads to the Heyman special. And the match starts very briefly, 40 seconds to be exact. And then you had the rest of the guys, the rest of the guys come in that were in the first match, Sweet Boys and Jet Setters, and they're beating down the War Dogs, and everybody's fighting everybody, and they're pulling out tables, they're pulling out ladders, they're pulling out chairs, so you can kind of see where this is going. And towards the end there, they had the Bullet Club guys on the tables, and Kevin Knight was going to the top of the ladder and was gonna jump from the ring off the ladder to the outside to the tables, but they were able to get away and run up the stairs. And then you had Fujita getting on the mic and talking about with us winning Tag League, we should have a say in the stipulation, and essentially saying, let's use the environment that we just created. And but he said the champs have to agree until Kushida gets the mic and he says chairs, ladders, and desks.
Yeah, bro. I saw that on I got spoiled a little bit on Twitter. I saw that it was tables, ladders, or chairs, ladders, and desks. And I was like, what the fuck? You're going to pull out like the big metal desks from like grade school with like the wood tops. Like, this is going to be dangerous as shit. Like, no one's going through that. Talk about I am the table.
Yeah.
But is a mistranslation. It's, English is Kushida's second language. Maybe he was ribbing us. I don't know.
No, I think it was just a confusion because Kevin Knight got the mic and he was like, yeah, tables, ladders, and chairs.
Yeah. But it was still. But like what I'm saying is like maybe it was a rib. Like he's pretending like he didn't know what he was saying, but he's really like, watch me go out there and call this shit a desk.
Yeah. So it's official. The junior 4-way will now be a 4-way TLC match at Wrestle Kingdom.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think those guys they're gonna kill each other out there.
This is the kind of shit that like when we used to do the social suplex draft, you and I would like draft a bunch of like junior tag teams and put them in like a TLC in the Tokyo Dome, and it's the kind of thing that you're like, this is never going to happen, but like if we had the book, it would happen. And I mean, I can hardly imagine 8 better dudes to potentially do this match with. It's got the actual potential to be blow away. I know there's been a lot of, attention from Western voices talking about the preference for the 1-5 show over the 1-4 show. And I feel like this match in particular is one of those things that has gotten overlooked just in general, because there are maybe some people out there that don't love the idea that the winners of the junior tag league aren't the primary singles, tag challengers, and that the booking was convoluted. But make no mistake about it, the reason why most of the tuned in fans really aren't that upset about it is because of how great all 8 of these guys have been as tag teams through the last couple of years. And we're finally seeing a culmination where they're all in the ring together. And then you're adding this stipulation. And one of the problems that New Japan has had in the past, there's been several ladder matches in the past, many. At this point, not like too many, but there's probably been like 5 or 6 so far. And the only one that ever really had the potential to deliver was the second one that they were going to do, where it was Kenny Omega. Well, they said it was the first one, but it was really the second one, but where it was going to be Kenny and Tanahashi years ago for the IC title. And then Tanahashi got injured, was unable to compete, and it ended up being Elgin versus Kenny Omega. And that match that's kind of like an overlooked banger. Do you remember that match?
Oh yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was great.
That was Kenny balling out with the ladder. And, there was the Kenny Cody matches, which were ladder matches, but they weren't actually ladder matches, but like they were basically ladder matches.
Yeah.
But most of the ladder matches that have occurred in New Japan Pro Wrestling been really lackluster. Matches where it's gimmicked, it's a lot of comedy, it's guys who are not adept at flying high or being super creative, and they're kind of just using the ladder as a thing to climb or whatever, Mm-hmm. This is 8 individuals who are hungry, super fucking athletic, very creative, willing to take chances. Like, in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of WrestleMania 16, 17 and that SummerSlam, like we're in 2000, where I'm like, oh, these guys are looking to like actually do something here. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an awesome match. And I know that people wanted to just kind of see a straight up, Ichiban Sweet Boys versus Jet Setters, which if that was a straight up tag match, that would be fine. But if you think about it, like, Wrestle Kingdom, like, they're not going to get the time to do a great blow-away tag team match if it was just that, with just the time constraints. So why not do the 4-way, TLC, and then you do this crazy, like, 12, 15-minute TLC. They get their time. They have a crazy great match. Like, that's going to end up being more memorable than if they do a short 10-minute straight-up tag match.
I'm nervous about it a little bit, though. Like, the last time that a match like this was occurring in New Japan where I was nervous prior to it actually happening was the Dog Pound Steel Cage match, where I was like, this might get out of hand, and I'm a little nervous, and it did.
Hanari almost died.
Yeah. And we never saw Alex Coughlin wrestle ever again after that. And, I know that we've kind of likened this match in the past to the classic multi-man tags of yesteryear in the junior division with New Japan, but kind of has a little bit of that same vibe as the 4-way between Hiromu, Marty Scurll, Ospreay, and who was the other guy? Was it Kushida?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember when they wrestled in the Dome and they did some crazy shit too. So it kind of has a similar feel to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they have the opportunity to kill it, but yeah, like you mentioned, a little bit more just because like New Japan doesn't always use like the fully like gimmick weapons, like it's the Japanese, the strong style table, which we see what happens to guys' backs when they go through that. The ladders don't seem like they're like the WWE style ladders.
Well, why would it, Jeremy? I mean, if you think about it, in WWE they have people manufacturing their weapons for them because they use them so often. It makes sense monetarily to like invest in the health of the wrestlers to actually pay somebody to make gimmicked versions of the weapons. In Japan, or like even like on like an indie, it's like, we're not gonna year round be using this shit. So, we're gonna go down to the hardware store. We're gonna see what the fuck they have. That's why the Doors became so popular with like GCW, because it's like, are we going to pay people to make these gimmick doors or tables for us? Or are we just going to go down to Lowe's Hardware and pick up a fucking door? And that's what these guys are going to do. You know, they're going to, nothing's going to be gimmicked. Like, the last time that we saw a really memorable ladder, it wasn't a ladder match, but a match involving a ladder in the Tokyo Dome was that crazy match with Tanahashi and Kenta, where both guys got hurt really bad, but especially Kenta. Like he was
gone like half the year.
Yeah. He got fucked up.
Yeah. And you know, all that story of Kenny Omega talking to Gato, like, yeah, we need to get the gimmick tables. And Gato's like, no, strong style table.
One last thing. And this is a thought I had earlier today. You know, many years ago, when the Young Bucks were doing their last Wrestle Kingdom, and we watched that World Tag League, and then the Bucks injected themselves, and I was really upset because it sort of undermined the tournament. But there was a deeper reason why that bothered me, and this particular booking decision doesn't bother me, and here's why. The Bucks were not in the World Tag League at all. And they were on a very part-time basis, and it was pretty much established and known that they were like, this was their last date, and they were just going to leave the company at that point. And so it felt like they were being injected for the betterment of the show from like a drawing standpoint, but to the detriment of the division, because they were barely part of the division anymore. They just kind of got treated like big shots who came in and then worked the show, and it was like, yeah, we just watched this whole fucking long ass tournament in December and November, and it was for nothing. With this one, it doesn't bother me because these 8 guys have been so integral to the junior tag division, and every single one of them will most likely still be in some form or fashion involved in the division going forward. So to me, it strengthens the division. Like, sure, is the booking a bit convoluted? Yeah, I'll give you that. And does it maybe a bit undermine like the validity of winning the tournament? But like, let's keep it a buck here. You know, it's not like this is the most prestigious tag tournament in the world. You know, it's the junior tag league.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. And one last thing I'll say, if you notice, all of these are really great tag units, but every single person involved could be a star in a single sense. So while it does strengthen the junior tag team division, whatever happens in the fallout from the Wato and Desperado match, you have 8 guys that could literally be like future challengers or even champions in this division that are all getting the rub, getting the showcase, and then who knows what happens through the rest of the year.
Yeah. We had a question from Def Franco 720. Says, is New Japan going a bit overboard with the stipulation matches for Wrestle Kingdom? It feels very unnecessary to have the junior tag title match be a stipulation match. I mean, I guess I could see that, but like we just talked about, I think the stipulation is going to help elevate the match, and these guys are going to get a chance to kind of quote unquote have their Wrestle Kingdom moment and steal the show. But you know, it's the thing of like it's the biggest show of the year. It's kind of when you do all your stipulation matches. So I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen death matches on major stadium shows in New Japan. I've seen all sorts of different stipulations, and sure, there could be that dissenting voice that longs for the purity of Shinihan, but like, I'm okay if it's something that's going to draw audiences and add intrigue and excitement and fun. Like, you know me, I'm a purist, but I'm here for the flips. I'm here for the dives. I'm here for the shit. Like, let's get with it. Like, I don't care. You know, if it was like a few years ago and it's like, we're doing tables, ladders, and chairs, and it's going to be Killer Elite Squad, God, War Machine,
and Tenkozy.
As much as and Tenkozy. Like, as much as I love some of those guys, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing this for? This is gonna be terrible. But when I'm looking at these 8 guys, I'm like, Hell yeah.
Yeah. So following that, we had another preview match for the junior title match. It was El Desperado, Master Wato, and Satoshi Kojima defeating Doki, Taichi, and Taka Michinoku. So pretty similar to the night before, just adding in Kojima and Taichi here, and same finish. Desperado getting the numero dos onto Taka Michinoku to tap him out. And
I don't have much more to add there, really.
Also, another story too to kind of mention with both those matches, they were testing the knee of Desperado because he's coming back from knee injury. So both Doki and Taichi and Taka, all those guys were like attacking Desperado's knee and kind of testing the knee for the upcoming matchup. Mm-hmm. Then following that, we had a preview for the Tanahashi Evil matchup. We had El Phantasmo, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Bolton Oleg, and Tomioka Hanma, and Toru Yano defeating Evil, Ren Narita, Sho, Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi in 12 minutes and 27 seconds.
Match was fine. It's pretty much what you'd expect from this style of preview match with these principles involved. The significant aspect of this match was the post-match angle where House of Torture was able to kind of get the upper hand on the Hontai guys. They got Tanahashi isolated in the center of the ring, and Evil, along with Dick Togo, they were able to basically get Tanahashi prone, and Evil, who's been teasing this for a while now, was able to cut a huge, significant chunk of Tanahashi's locks, which as soon as he did that, I was like, we're getting corporate ace. This guy's coming in with this guy's about to get the high fade side part like I fucking rock. Like this man's ready to take on the president role. Like he's gonna get rid of the frost tips. He's gonna get the corporate haircut. Like that's what's happening here.
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, that was a huge chunk of hair he cut out there, and so getting some heat there. So have House of Torture.
Crowd was pissed. It was super effective.
Yeah, so you have the last sights going in the Tokyo Dome of Evil, holding Tanahashi's hair, getting the advantage. So clearly that's going to open the door for Tanahashi to get revenge and beat Evil come January 4th. So yeah, great stuff here to get heat and build for that matchup.
Hilarious to hear Chris Charlton be like, "Oh, look at the ace president in Tokyo Dome shape." I'm like, dog.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years since this guy's been in Tokyo Dome shape. Like, let's keep it a buck here.
So then following that, we had the Bullet Club War Dogs of Dave Finlay, Gato, and Sonata defeating Bushi, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. So essentially a return match from the previous night, focused in on Finlay and Yota Tsuji.
I liked the interactions between those two guys. In the tail end, David Finlay was able to get the victory over Bushi. Post-match, him and Yota Tsuji went at it, and he was able to get the shillelagh, hit Tsuji in the head, and then hit him with it. What's his finisher called again?
The
Into
Overkill.
Oblivion. Does he do something called Into Oblivion?
Yeah, Into Oblivion is the gimmick where he does a suplex thing on the knee, and then the Overkill is the pop-up cross knee strike thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he hit the Overkill, which I can't keep these things straight, but leaves him laying, stands over him with his belt, and that's the last image we see. Tsuji, being a ho.
Yeah, so I think that's good signs for Tsuji there if you kind of play the momentum game. So last see laying, usually you want that guy to kind of get revenge, get the momentum back come the Tokyo Dome. And I will say that Tsuji has got some great crowd reactions on both nights. The crowds were really into him and wanted to see him kind of get up on Dave Finlay.
Absolutely.
So then that takes us to the main event of the evening. We had Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii defeating Rei Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. in 26 minutes and 31 seconds.
4.75.
Woo!
Jeremy.
Throwing out the stars.
If you want to talk about procuring the stars, they talked about, I knew that there was going to be snowfall at the end of this show. I didn't know there was going to be stars falling too. Like, what the fuck was this? Bro, this was incredible wrestling. Incredible moves. just really, 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 really great. Like, maybe not quite. I mean, we're not talking far off, but like the last time there was a match of this caliber on a Road to Tokyo Dome show was like that classic Will Ospreay Tanahashi versus Golden Lovers match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that one's probably a bit more epic and maybe better, but fuck, dude, like I'm a little frustrated with Shota Umino because it's like, we've talked about this in the past where it's like, he's the kind of guy that like when it's time to get up for the big one, it's inconsistent, but sometimes he does. And you're like, oh, this guy could be ace. And in this match, like he was showing the fire and the determination and tenacity that you want to see out of a future ace. And it was beautiful. And like, he was feeding off the crowd, and he might be one of those guys that's like able to do this when the environment and the opponent is right, you know? But I mean, it's better than like Sonata. Sonata can't ever do like, and then Zach was just smacking the shit out of him. This was super physical. Like, I felt like he was doing everything in his power to like draw that fire out of Shota Umino, and it was working. And then for those two guys to finally go out there and put on a compelling performance against one another, we've seen them multiple times in the past wrestle in singles matches and preview tags. And I've never really, although I've thought they've had some good, especially like the best one was probably in the World Tag League. That was like the best interaction, but everything's kind of felt me like lacking a bit in terms of like anticipation for this Tokyo Dome match. But when they started like really knocking it up a gear, I was like, oh shit, I see the story of what they're going to do and what the implications are here. And there's something special actually. And this isn't like New Japan fanboy headcanon bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Remember last year when people were like, oh yeah, there's this long build between Sonata and Naito, and they're like really grasping at it. And I get that. That's fine. That's not what this is. This is me like off my fucking couch being like, oh shit, I see it. I see it. They can do the 5 stars. This could really blow away the Tokyo Dome. And then you add in like Oiwa. I mean, anyone with a brain sees what Oiwa can be and is, and how he's probably the future. And then, you know, Ishii's Ishii. And when you have all 4 of these guys with their different trajectories and motivations, and I don't know who the fuck laid this match out, but I don't know how these guys, without calling shit, how they're able to do what they did for 26 minutes. But it reminded me of some of the best of like, you know, we used to call it like Okada era closing sequences where it was like reversal, 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 bam, 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 back, back, back. Like the top notch of like golden era New Japan, where there would be these long, intense, physical, intricate, you know, match layouts. And these guys were doing it for the whole time. There was one time where Zach kicked Ishii in the stomach, and I was like, oh my God. And then some of the chops that Ishii was feeding to Oiwa, like,
yeah. Dude,
I'll let you have it, man. But I'll let you have it. But I was just blown away.
Yeah, that headbutt that Oiwa, or that Ishii gave to Oiwa, yeah, like they were hitting hard, great sequences, big moves, and yeah, you have 4 guys here that always work super hard, and so yeah, they turned up well. Yeah, that closing was just great. You had Umino doing a tornado DT on Sabre, but then Sabre immediately hitting the Zack driver off of that. Double down, everybody there. Oiwa clotheslining Shota for a near fall. Ishii running in for double clothesline. Sabre accidentally kicking Oiwa. Then Ishii hits a German on Sabre. Sent Zack rolling to the floor. And then Ishii accidentally hits an Inzi on Shota. Oiwa hits the Dr. Bomb on Umino for a incredibly great near fall. Like, it felt like it was 3 the way that Red Shoes counted. It was a super close near fall there on the Dr. Bomb. And then he went to hit the grip, which is that discus lariat. So he went for that, shoulder ducked it, and hit the Death Rider, the double arm DDT, for the pin. So Umino and Ishii gets the win here. And then, of course, we get the traditional snow falling in Cork and Hall. We get the final face-to-face with Zack Sabre Jr. and Shota Umino. They get to do their jaw-jacking kind of last showdown there. And then Umino gets to send the crowd home happy and close the show there. So, yeah, really, really stellar main event here. And this did an excellent job of building up the heat and interest for this Tokyo Dome main event. So if you are not thrilled about seeing Zack face off against Umino at Tokyo Dome, I highly, highly recommend that you watch this main event from this Cork and Hall December 23rd, because this will get you excited. Like, the story and chemistry here with these guys was just great. Umino wasn't really getting booed here. The crowd seemed really into Umino, and I feel the way that Zack was attacking Umino. Umino also was coming in. He had tweaked his ankle the night before. And so you had Zack working on the ankle, working on some of the injured parts there. Umino building up sympathy for him. Like you mentioned earlier, Josh, the slaps to the face. So yeah, Zack doing a great job. He's not quote unquote playing heel, but he is getting sympathy for Shota Umino. So really, really great stuff there. And we had some questions here. Def Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan has done enough to make the Wrestle Kingdom 19 main event a must-see match? And, like I said, as far as the build and how the match was made, I don't feel like that was, great there. But then I feel like everything since the match has been announced, I feel like all the interactions have been great. Like you mentioned, the World Tag League match, and then these Road Tokyo Dome stuff here. I think this match in particular did a really good job of selling that main event.
One moment. I'm going to answer that question, but I've got a dog that is not working with me. 1 second.
You're good. Another question here. Dark Soldier says, is it me or have we entered the trinity of lame Wrestle Kingdom main events? Jay versus Okada's build was non-existent and the match outcome obvious. Sonata and Naito lacked the heat and excitement despite their history, and Zack and Shota have been very, very, very bland.
And who asked that question?
That was Dark Soldier.
I mean, I think it depends on your perspective. Like, if you are rightfully so, we were very critical of the booking of this match from the outset, how we got there. But since they actually announced the match the last couple tours, they've done a fantastic job building it, which is more than what you could probably say for those other 2 main events. That's not to say it's been perfect by any means, but Zack's working his fucking ass off doing all of these tours in the lead up to the Tokyo Dome, which is not something a champion typically does. So I think if you are plugged in and you're watching these tours and you're seeing these matches, you probably have a different outlook than your standard Western fan who is maybe only cherry picking the bigger shows, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that for the more tuned in fans, they're doing a good job of engaging and building intrigue for the actual match.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything post the actual match announcement has been really, really great. Well, that's it for the Road to Tokyo Dome reviews. Next,
one thing I wanted to say before I know I stormed out of here. I had a bathroom emergency I had to attend to. But if you noticed in this match, Shota Umino was not able to get the upper hand in any aspect of what was going on between him and Zack. He tried to out-tough Zack. He couldn't out-tough Zack. He tried to out-technical Zack. He couldn't out-technical. He tried to basically do all of any aspect of professional wrestling. Zach was more seasoned, more proficient, and better than him. And the one thing he had that he could go to the well with, where he was able to drag Zach out, was showcasing his durability and showing the fighting spirit, which is something that we always, classically attached to a potential like ace-like figure in New Japan. Like that's one of the defining characteristics, is having that fighting spirit. And I think that I think that they did a great job encapsulating and showcasing what the story of that match might potentially be. That like Zach is better than him in every way, but maybe Shota Umino has the deeper heart, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great story. So can he just kind of outlast Zach and just have the better gas tank and durability to be the key to beat Zach?
And they're both two guys who have something major to prove, which is a lot different from those other two matches that you mentioned, where it's like, okay, they've given everything to Zach this year. Not to say like they've gifted it to him. He's obviously worked his ass off, but like they gave him a G1 win. They gave him the win over Bryan Danielson. They've like made him to be the best technical wrestler in the world. He's gotten big wins over Naito and Taichi or Shingo and all these different big names. He won the G1. He won the world title. He's had multiple title defenses. Like you can't really ask for a stronger year. And all the same, I don't think that even with as much as people respect Zach and as much as they view him as one of the best wrestlers in the world, and he's always had that reputation, I don't think people still, as of yet, see him as this made man top level star that is marketable to the point where they can always go to the well with him. Everyone views him as the top hand for sure, and he's popular, but he's not a made man in Japan, like a top 4, top 5 guy. And I think for him, the story is like to prove to everybody, like, I'm not a flash in the pan. I'm not a guy that just, accumulated or compiled my record, but like I can actually be the top fucking star, And then for Shota Umino, you've got a guy who probably shouldn't even really be in this match based on the year that he had, but he found himself in this place and kind of fits into the story that people have said, that he was somebody that has been gifted a lot of things because of favoritism, because of nepotism and things like that. And there have been plenty of times where he's been given opportunities and he's missed the mark, and then other times where he's knocked it out of the park. And I think that here he has the opportunity to showcase, like, this is what I could be all of the time. The best version of myself is ace level material, and he has to go out there and showcase that he can do that. And it's two guys who have something huge to prove. And from that aspect, it's a very interesting match.
Yeah, I think, the more that you kind of lay it out, and if you tune into these matches, I think what they're doing here is compelling, and there's going to be an interesting story that plays out come January 4th.
The last thing I'll say, and it makes me nervous, Shota Umino is looking ripped. The lats, the traps, the shoulders, everything, he's looking big. And Zach is looking a little soft.
You think so?
A little. In the stomach section, a little bit soft. Like, I remember what he looked like when he was gearing up for the run, and you kind of knew something was on the horizon. It was like, oh shit, this guy's getting in like heavyweight, like top star form. And maybe a lot of this has to do with the breakneck pace that he's been keeping, and how much he's like putting his body on the line. Cause Zach's like the hardest worker in the fucking company right now. And he probably doesn't even have to be. Like, he's wrestling like he's Doki 3 years ago. It's fucking crazy. He's wrestling like he doesn't want to go back. but physically he doesn't look like a guy that is gearing up to win in the Tokyo Dome, and I'm a little nervous about that. Maybe because I'm a Zach fan, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Umino ends the show here with the momentum, gets a snowfall. So we'll see what happens come Wrestle Kingdom next week. We will preview Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. As of right now, Chris Samsa is penciled in to join us. I don't know if that's.
I talked to Chris, and he is for sure for the show.
Okay, cool.
That could change, but that's what he told me just a few days ago.
Cool. All right, so next week, big preview show. Our tradition, bring on Chris Samsa, and we will preview both the Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty cards. So right now, we're going to jump into our year-end awards primer here. So we'll go through all the categories, announce the nominees, and kind of give a brief discussion on each of the categories.
Jeremy, we're an hour, 25 minutes in. I know we don't want to keep our listeners too long, but I know that we are, we're long-winded when it comes to this stuff. So you're going to have to keep us on track. I say the big awards, we give the good, decent amount of the time. Then, the smaller awards, the ones that are meaningful, but maybe not as important, give a little less time,
Okay. So we'll start off here with the Antonio Inoki Wrestler of the Year, probably the biggest award here, biggest category. So this year, the nominees are David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Hiroki Goto, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, Yota Tsuji, and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, so I don't have, normally I have like all the stats and everything in front of me. So I'm going to go a lot more off gut this year. It's not going to be as in depth. Plus, we're not devoting a whole separate show to this like we normally do. But, Jeremy, you give me the name, I'll tell you in a brief nutshell why I think they're a good candidate.
All right, well, let's start from the top. David Finlay.
He's the best global champion in the history of this company thus far.
Yeah, that's true.
much improved, the leader of one of the best factions in the company. And his match quality's gotten better. His character work's really improved. And he was a dominant force in the company. Yeah,
definitely. And as we get to most improved, you'll see his name on there to get the improved in-ring and kayfabe wise. He was still kind of trying to figure the character out. He had that horrible dye job last year, and he was trying to act like Jay White. And so now I feel like he's kind of honed in the character, so he kind of has that rebel savior character. I think fully formed now, and the in ring has improved. The whole Bruiser style, the Bullet Club War Dogs has been one of the best factions of the year. Like you mentioned, great stuff with the global title, especially at the beginning of the year, beating Ospreay twice. Winning the global title, being global champion pretty much all year if you exclude all the Nemeth stuff. So a really good year for Finlay. Next guy, the strong openweight champion, Gabe Kidd.
Gabe Kidd, some of the roughest matches of the year have involved Gabe Kidd. I think he's really been a stabilizing force in North America, where he's been very successful holding the strong title. He had a lot of really big excursion matches throughout the year, wrestling some of the top names outside of the company. And he's made a huge stride in gaining more popularity and attention from the pundits, from the fans, everybody alike. And yeah, he was a top performer. So
yeah, I mean, as I was doing research for a lot of these categories, and you look at Gabe Kidd's cage match, I'm like, oh my gosh, like banger after banger after banger. This guy, I think he's an underrated in-ring workhorse this year, just because the antics are turned up to 100, and people tend to focus in on his promos and the character and all the gaga he does outside of the ring. But if you look at his cage match and you pull up his like top matches, like you look at his G1, you look at some of these strong title matches, like this guy had a great in-ring year.
Absolutely.
Next up, Hiroki Goto.
Goto had a resurgent year. Just the run through the what's that tournament?
New Japan Cup.
Yeah, through the New Japan Cup, and some of that was helped by other people being like David Finlay got disqualified or wasn't unable to compete, and that sort of opened up the trajectory for Goto. But Goto worked his ass off. If you look at the work he did in World Tag League with Bishamon and at the latter half of the end stages of last year, and then the run through the World Tag or through New Japan Cup, that fantastic match with Tsuji, which was one of I think that was the best. I don't know if it's the best match of the year, but there's a reason it won the Tokyo Sports Match of the Year, because that's the most hype I've heard any audience or crowd for a wrestling show in 2024, and pretty much anywhere. Like, that's one of the best environments. The only other match I could think of where the environment was even comparable was that Rev Pro match between Will Ospreay and Michael Oku. Like, we're talking about very, very, very special environments. And from there, I mean, his run through the G1, the match where he beat David Finlay, he just really turned it up. And I know he didn't have maybe all the greatest accolades in terms of kayfabe, but he really went from being a guy who was like seen as a almost end stage, close to being dad status type guy, to suddenly, like, not only is he like a reliable hand, but like you could maybe see him being in the title runs, come 2025.
Yeah, he's a guy you tap on his shoulder and he was ready to go. It's like, yeah, Goto, we need you in a New Japan Cup final. I got you. I'm good. We need you to have this compelling G1, do this stuff with your kids, and do this kind of emotional roller coaster. I got you. I'm good. We need you and Yoshihashi to win World Tag League, 3 times. Boom, I got you. Like, no matter where you put him, like, he delivered. And yeah, this was a kind of a increased year for him as far as the workload and more single stuff. And so, yeah, I thought Goto had a really, really great year.
I have a bit of Goto in me. And Geto, if you're out there listening, if you need me to win the World Tag League 3 times in a row, I got you, bro. I'm selfless like that. I'll sacrifice for you. I'll do it.
The never openweight champion, Shingo Takagi.
I mean, what is there to say about Shingo that hasn't already been said? Like, just all around one of the most consistent in-ring workers of the company. We talk endlessly about how he doesn't get the credit for his world title run that basically carried the company during one of its darkest periods. This year, he was just consistently great. He had great matches all across the board. His G1 run was fantastic. Every tournament that he was involved in, every title match he was involved in, multiple title wins this year. Shingo is a guy that could very easily be in the main event at any given time. And he's just always fucking awesome. I mean, if you ever look at you look at the top 100 matches of New Japan, there's always going to be at least like somewhere between 10 to 15 minimum, but maybe more, where Shingo's involved.
Yeah, easily. I mean, you can pretty much just pull up any audio. We've talked about Shingo in these awards the last several years, and it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, one of the best wrestlers in the world and on that roster, and is always having great matches, regardless of who you put him in there. Yeah, he's always in either the never scene, the world scene. Him and Zach had a great series of matches this year. Him and Hanare had a great series of matches this year. He had the match with Jon Moxley at the beginning of the year, the Tama Tonga match. The Tokyo Dome was like, this guy just always produces bangers. So I think
that Tama Tonga match fucking rocked.
Yeah, and I think it's a no-brainer here. And for our wrestler of the year, it is kind of a combination of your flair, Thez, and most outstanding. So it all depends on how you want to vote. And a guy like Shingo, he kind of draws in that most outstanding as far as his in-ring quality. Like, he's always going to go out there and have these amazing, incredible matches, whether it's KOPW, Never, or the world title scene. So next up, Tetsuya Naito.
I think Tetsuya Naito has a very strong case for being the wrestler of the year, based solely off of the fact that he was the top star in the company and the top draw by a wide margin. And once he wasn't in the top spot, business went down. They relied on him to draw that Tokyo Dome show. They relied on him through the whole first quarter to bolster all the houses. When you saw business tick up, it was when Tetsuya Naito had the title on. Were there matches where he delivered this year when he was called upon to do it? Certainly there were. Were they far less in regularity than most of the other names that have been listed on this ballot so far? They were. I think there's probably around 4 to 5 really truly great Naito matches. And you know what? It might be more than that because you and I seem to be the only people that really love those night 1 and night 2 Zach and Shingo matches in the G1. I don't know why everyone hates those matches. We loved them, but at the same time, like Naito he held the title twice this year. He was the biggest box office draw in the company. And the only other guy you could probably point to that made as big a difference in business than him is like Jon Moxley, who we didn't include in these awards for a variety of reasons. But Naito pretty much floated the company on his back the whole year.
Yeah, I think if you kind of have that Flair Thez mindset when you're voting in this awards, and you look at the drawing power, then I think definitely Tetsuya Naito is a guy that's probably going to get your first place vote here. Like you mentioned, just because of the drawing power, how he was on top, and kind of the guy that they had to rely on to kind of keep the company afloat this year, and being in and out of the world title scene, 2 title wins this year. So from a most outstanding kind of viewpoint, he's probably not going to be your number one pick, like you mentioned, because he was kind of hit or miss with some of the matches, but still having very important matches. So again, it still depends on how you're voting here.
But like you mentioned, with our Wrestler of the Year award, we don't have a determined criteria that anybody has to vote by necessarily. It's the Wrestler of the Year. So whatever is important to you. With that being said, though, remember there were years where remember the first time Ospreay won this, he wasn't even in the main event scene. I think he had just gone to heavyweight. And the strength of his schedule and his quality was so high that even if he wasn't a real true quote unquote main eventer yet, it was fuck, who can compete with this dude? Now I think that was 2017 or 2018, something like that. We don't have that guy this year. And, I'll tell you who I voted for number 1, and we'll get to him. And there are people who have incredible schedules, but that wide margin, that top end Will Ospreay performer where it's he's got 40 of the greatest matches in the year, that doesn't exist this year. There is nobody who in one fell swoop has that most outstanding argument that outweighs everything else.
Will Ospreay, he had an incredible year. I was trying to go back and look and see what
you
year.
won it from us, I think, twice.
Yeah, so he goes first in 2023 and 2022 was the 2 years that he won it back to back, and came in third in 2021. So Will just having had an incredibly great run there. So there's not a guy like you mentioned that has that schedule or that consistency of match quality. Also, you mentioned guys like Shingo, who's great, but even Shingo, I feel doesn't always have the super high end matches as much as Will was having. So I think this is a kind of a wide open field here, depending on how you want to vote on these guys here. So up next, the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji, first time being nominated in the Wrestler of the Year.
Tsuji, he lost in the Tokyo Dome last year to Yuya Uemura, right?
Yes.
So he had that was a big loss. That was a setback. And then he turned the rest of his year around where, he found himself having a really, really fantastic run in the New Japan Cup. Maybe one of the best runs in a while. In that final where he beat Goto, not only did Goto feel resurgent, but it felt fuck, we might have found our guy here with Tsuji. I was a little unimpressed. Not to say it was horrible, but I didn't love the the match between him and Naito. I thought that could have been so much more, but it did feel like the first step in a longer, broader story for Tsuji being a potential top guy in the company. You look at his G1, fantastic. The feud that he had with David Finlay this year, that was very career defining. And some of those matches he had with Takeshita in the G1 like stand out. Also the matches with Jeff Cobb. Like Tsuji was one of the best in-ring performers. And the one thing that sort of eluded him was gold, which he's looking to rectify that, come January 4th in the Tokyo Dome. So I think there's a reason he's the only Reiwa guy that's on this list this year.
Yeah, I mean, Tsuji just has that it factor. He has charisma. I mean, from the minute he came back, he just seemed like a star. And yeah, he had a really great year this year, like you mentioned. I think. Oh,
and he finaled in the G1.
Yeah,
so he's one of the only guys to ever final twice in those two tournaments in the same year.
Yeah, and having a great match in both those finals against Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. So yeah, having the star power, the crowd connection, the great matches. I will say that there are some of his matches where they don't quite meet your expectations, don't kind of hit that next level. But overall, I think his in-ring has been great, and he delivers on the big stage. And like you mentioned, that's why he's the Reiwa guy that's on here. And so, yeah, I think Tsuji is going to get a lot of love. He's already getting a lot of love in the voting here on the Wrestler of the Year. So then, last but not least, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, we go alphabetically, so some people are probably wondering why Zach wasn't listed first. He's listed last because, Zed. But, I mean, there's no getting around it. I'm voting for Zach as my Wrestler of the Year. When you look at the kayfabe, I mean, winning the G1, second foreigner ever to win the G1, the guy to turn around and actually win the title off of that title, quote unquote WWE term opportunity. Some of the houses that he did, the business that he did, the quality of match. I do think if you do the tally, it's very likely Zach probably has the most amount of great matches in the company. And if he doesn't, he's probably like number 2 or 3. And then if you're kind of counting that undefinable factor, like what we talked about, like how hard are these people trying in the matches that maybe don't get the quote unquote star treatment? Those undercard tags where everyone's kind of just going through the motions. And for some reason, Zach's out here fucking killing himself. Just from a kayfabe standpoint and the amount of titles that he won, the amount of great matches he had, and all the accolades, like it's hard to kind of get around. Like to me, he's the Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah, I also voted Zach number 1 here as my Wrestler of the Year. Like to me, you just can't beat the in-ring quality he's had this year. We talked about all these Road 2 shows, working super hard in World Tag League. Like no matter what position he was in on the card, he was just going out there and just balling. So in-ring standpoint, also kayfabe, finally wins the world title. He won the G1. He was in the TV title picture this year still. So yeah, he was just a guy that you relied on. Obviously, he had the great Bryan Danielson match at New Beginning in Osaka. So he has so many.
Matt Riddle, his only great match in the company.
Yeah, so many great matches, so many great kayfabe accomplishments, winning a Tokyo Sports MVP award. Like there's just so much stuff that kind of stacks up for Zach. Obviously, I think the one knock on him, if you're looking at the drawing power, the house has not been as up with him as champion. Maybe that's the one knock on maybe why you wouldn't vote him first, but I think everything else super well rounded, and that's why he got first for me. And right now, a lot as votes are coming in, Zach is a heavy favorite right now. So that's Wrestler of the Year. I voted Zach, Gabe Kidd, and Shingo as my top 3.
I don't remember who I voted. I know I voted. I had a really tough time voting this year. Like it was not as instinctual as it usually is when I look at the ballot. Like typically I knew who I was voting number one, but my number twos and number threes were difficult a lot at the time.
Yeah.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, let's move on to match of the year. So we have Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada from January 4th. Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from February 11th. The Dog Pound Cage match, also from February 11th. Gabe Kidd versus Hanare, February 24th. Hiroki Goto versus Yota Tsuji from March 20th. Tomohiro Ishii versus Yoshihashi from July 3rd. El Phantasmo and Konosuke Takeshita from August 7th. Gabe Kidd versus Zack Sabre Jr. from August 8th. Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre from August 17th. Yota Tsuji versus Zack Sabre from August 18th. Catch 2-2 versus Ichiban Sweet Boys from November 4th. Shingo versus Zack from November 4th, and Mayu Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe from November 17th.
So how many matches did we actually nominate for this award?
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Damn, that's too many. Yeah, we had a tough time cutting numbers down. If it had been left up to me, there only would have been like 5 locks and everything else would have got cut. But I know people want to vote for their favorites, and it's good to have options and variety. Unlike the U.S. election where you just have the 2, and it's a work. We're giving you the actual. We're not giving you the illusion of choice. We're giving you the reality of choice. But Jeremy, how about we do this? Say a match. We'll go. You go. And then the next match, I go. We just say a couple, each one of us say one quick thing. I trust you. You know, if you talk about, say, Danielson Okada, I don't need to add anything to it. You know, we'll just go that way so we can knock this shit out.
All right. So, so I'll start off Danielson versus Okada. So obviously this was the big rematch from Forbidden Door the previous year where Bryan, his arm got broken in the match, but he still ended up beating Okada. So this was the return match for Okada to get the win back, and just stellar matchup. I thought this was better than the Forbidden Door match, and they went out there and had that kind of your big Wrestle Kingdom dream match style of matchup here with Okada getting the win back. So yeah, awesome matchup. So next up, Danielson Sabre.
Danielson Sabre, for a lot of people, is probably going to be their match of the year, and I don't blame them. One of the most special technical battles, but also all around great matches, and it was something that was not expected on a New Beginning in Osaka show. And I thought, again, just like you mentioned, Jeremy, I thought this outdid the AEW version of their match, and that won our excursion match of the year last year. That's how great that match was, and I thought this one was even better.
Then next up, the Dog Pound Cage match. I think this match is super underrated. This was such a bloody, violent matchup that it was built up perfectly between United Empire and the Bullet Club War Dogs, and they went out there and had this crazy, just hard-hitting, life-threatening matchup. You had Hanare getting his head split, people going through tables, getting their backs gashed up, and the chairs, ladders, and also the cage, and just everything that they built into it. Ospreay's finale in the company. And yeah, I think everything about this match was just built up perfectly, and they delivered. And I think this match needs a lot more love than it's getting.
I want to talk about it, but I'm going to follow my own rules.
Well, it'll come up again, so maybe you'll get a chance there. So Gabe Kidd and Hanare.
Gabe Kidd and Hanare was one of those matches where we talked about restoring the feeling. When you think about classic Never style, hard hitting in your, grinding to the nose, just fucking battles. That's what this was in Cork and Hall. These guys went to a double KO, and there was a lot of, perceived heat there in the fallout from the Dog Pound Cage match where Hanare had been hurt. So this was really something special, and kind of over delivered on a show where there were multiple matches between War Dogs and United Empire, and this one was actually, now that I'm thinking about it, was this match in the lead up to the Dog Pound Cage match?
No, so the dog pound was February 11th. This was February 24th.
Okay, so this was that doesn't make sense.
How does it not make sense?
Because Hanare was out for a long time after the dog pound cage match.
I don't think it was that long, but hold on, I can check cage match, see if I got the wrong date here. Let's see.
I don't know if I gave you the wrong date or maybe you have the wrong date, but that does not seem right because he had that huge gash. He was gone for like 6 months.
He wasn't gone for 6 months.
He was gone for 6 months, Jeremy. It was 6 months. The man couldn't walk.
Let's see here. I think I do have the wrong date here.
Damn. Yeah, because
it was February 4th.
Oh, and you put 24th. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing for you. Anyways, so this was part of the preview matches leading up to the dog pound cage match. So strike what I said earlier, but just fucking hard nosed, grinding, in your face, incredible, violent match. Very likely a strong contender for strong style fight of the year as well, and it's here on the docket for match of the year.
Yeah, I have now corrected the dates on the ballot, so
you can change the ballot afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't think you should have that power, bro. This is the shit Trump was talking about. You know? Not right.
So the dates fixed on there now for anybody that's continuing to vote. Next up, Tsuji and Goto. So this was the New Japan Cup Finals that we were talking about.
And you're getting all the good ones.
This match was just awesome. You know, you just had the great story of Tsuji, you know, getting into the finals, being that Reiwa guy to kind of be the first guy to get into a tournament finals, and the whole story of Hiroki Goto kind of being this resurgent kind of guy throughout the tournament. Also, he's Mr. March, Mr. New Japan Cup. And the crowd just got super behind him and super invested in him. And I think there's a large part of the crowd that wanted to see him get the win here. So this was just a great match. The atmosphere, like you mentioned earlier, was just absolutely insane. And this match is actually getting a lot more love than I was expecting it to get. I just feel like, you know, it was March. Maybe people forgot about it, or it's one of those matches where maybe we liked it more than other people. But so far, the votes that are coming in, people are really getting behind this one.
I feel vindicated because let me just go on record and say I think I liked this match more than you when it happened in March. Really? I think you were like 4.5, and I think I was closer to the 5-star limit on that one.
Yeah. So I think a lot of other people, I've seen it's gotten some first place votes. It's getting good second and third place votes. So people are digging this one.
You know, it's not that high on cage match though. This is why I don't trust cage match anymore.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised. I'm like, oh well, this it seems like there's a large group of people who are not super high on it, and then our ballots start coming in, and I'm like, oh well, clearly
because we have the smart fans, Jeremy.
Next up, Ishii Yoshihashi, New Japan Soul.
Oh man, this was one of those matches that was part of the G1 qualifiers where these guys were trying to get into the G1, and this outdid most of the G1 itself. And like we joked at the time saying like this is going to be as good or better than a lot of what you're going to see on the G1, but like it was literally one of the best matches of the entire fucking year. And it really was like a fuck you almost, like where Yoshihashi and Ishii were like, sure, we're not in this shit, but we're going to show you why we fucking ball. And they went out there and had one of the best matches and most hard hitting matches of the year. And I feel like this is one of those ones that was a little bit underwatched by folks. But if you didn't see Ishii versus Yoshihashi, that's another great thing about these awards. You can use this as a guide for we're giving you the best matches of the year. Go back and rewatch this shit. Just not even to vote, but just for your own enrichment.
Enjoyment, yeah.
Yeah. But this match fucking ruled.
Then next up, we're going to get into the G1 section of these awards here. So ELP and Konosuke Takeshita from August 7th. This was
the best ones.
Yeah. This was easily one of the best matches of the whole tournament. A lot of people going 5 stars on this one. This was from Korakuen Hall. And these guys just went out here and it's had that absolute banger, the high flying, the hard striking. Like this was just such a incredible matchup here, especially for G1 where people are they're looking for those notebook matches. They're looking for, the high above 4.5, and these guys went out here and delivered. So awesome stuff. Next up, Gabe Kidd and Zach.
Gabe Kidd and Zach is one that happened in the middle of the G1 and was very critically acclaimed as it happened, but I feel like it was almost forgotten in like the afterglow of like the G1 because so much happens. But this is one of those ones where it's like, this is another one of those bangers from Gabe Kidd and Zach, two of the guys that we have nominated for Wrestlers of the Year. Highly emotional, reminded me, like, it very much felt like they were borrowing liberally from Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13, the submission match. And, even liberally from the finish there. And, it felt like this was a match where when it was done, you kind of felt like Gabe could be one of the top guys.
Yeah. Then next up here, Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. So this was from August 17th. So G1 semifinals to get to the finals. And I mean, Zack and Shingo, I think they're like the perfect opponents for each other. They always have great matches dating back to their first series in 2021. So it's always that great mix of the Shingo's hard hitting and Zach's submission. Obviously, Zach is also increased the strike game to kind of equal with Shingo, and so it's another great hard hitting matchup there. Big stakes to see who's going to get into the G1 final. And like I mentioned earlier, these guys had a series of matches this year, and this was probably one of the better ones of their series. They had a match earlier in the G1. Due to the block structure here. And so great stuff from Zach and Shingo. Next up, Tsuji and Zack Sabre Jr. G1 Finals.
Yeah, this was a very historic match and something that was highly anticipated. And both of these guys had so much to kind of fight for and prove just because of the historical nature of it all. And it was hard to call who was going to be the one that walked out with this. An incredible Sumo Hall crowd, great action, great finish, and one of the most heralded matches of the year. I loved it.
Next up, Catch 2-2 and Ichiban Sweet Boys. This is from Power Struggle.
I should have gone first. This is bullshit.
The Super Junior Tag League final matchup here. And yeah, this match is just absolutely incredible. Also, we reviewed this almost about a month ago now. And again, these guys just went balls to the wall. It's one of the best Super Junior Tag Finals that we've had in a long time. It was just you had 4 guys out here that that want to make a name for themselves, and it was a big deal having Robbie Eagles and Vegeta winning their first tournament here. And yeah, lots of flips, lots of high flyings, a lot of emotions, a lot of intensity. Great matchup. Next up, Shingo and Zach from Power Struggle.
Yeah, so we had trouble because there was 3 really great Zach Shingo matches. We're like, which ones do we cut? Which ones do we leave on? And this was the final match, and we were like, we got to keep at least these 2 on. And in my estimation, the best thus far Zach title defense of his run. And even though I didn't think for any stretch of time that Shingo was actually going to win, they started to maybe get me to doubt that just a little bit towards the tail end there, because some of these near falls were really fantastic. And I don't know which is the better of the Shingo and Zach matches. And we always talk about how when there are a great series of matches that occur in the same calendar year, that they could hypothetically split the vote. I do wonder what the consensus is going to be if either of these do get a lot of attention in the voting one way or the other. But I think, I don't know for sure, but I think that I liked this match the best of the 3, but I'd have to go back and watch because like you said, these guys are the perfect opponents for one another.
Yeah. Then last but not least, Mayu Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe from Historic Crossover IWGP Women's Title match. These girls went out here and just had an incredible match. Mayu is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. Momo Watanabe is great as well. And so also there was a whole story there of their whole careers. Momo has been trying to beat Mayu and emulate Mayu and be that kind of next star, and then ends up going dark with joining Oedo Tai, which eventually becomes Hate. And so this is just a next step in that story. And it was like, I think, her 10-year anniversary, and wanting to finally kind of beat Mayu and kind of prove that she can be on Mayu's level, and even kind of reverting back a little bit to the old Momo Watanabe pre-heel turn to try to prove that she can beat Mayu. And so incredible matchup there. Mayu ended up getting the win, and really great stuff.
I think obviously it's too late to add stuff to the bout, but I think you forgot West Coast Wrecking Crew versus Dirty Work, the 2 out of 3 falls match.
No, I don't think I forgot that.
You forgot it, bro.
Oh man. So we'll go to show of the year. So you want to do the same thing for this one?
I think we could talk a little bit more holistically about show of the year, just the highlights, because I don't even know if I remember everything that happened on all these shows, but we could talk about them, just briefly. I know it's one of the big ones for sure. It's like the big 3 awards, but are we going to break down all?
No.
How many shows did we nominate? 10?
10.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to break down 10 shows.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of do a holistic talk here. So the nominees are Wrestle Kingdom 18, Battle in the Valley, New Beginning in Osaka, Windy City Riot, Dominion, Forbidden Door, New Japan Soul, Night 6, G1 Climax 34, Night 1, G1 Climax 34, Night 2, and Power Struggle.
Some really great shows. It feels like those first 3 or 4 shows in the calendar year, like that first quarter, might be where a lot of the votes kind of sway. But there was, the Power Struggle show, I know that's gotten a lot of attention too.
Yeah, Power Struggle was a great show. The G1 Night 1 and 2, that's we had the double block cards, full G1 matches, and that's when we had the great the Shingo Zack matches, Zack Naito matches. It's always funny with those all block tournament shows. Sometimes they really do deliver, but they still don't seem, for whatever reason, to break through to the masses when it comes to our voting to get that sort of acclaim, unless it's like that one night, what was it, like night 9 in 2014, where it was like all over 4-star matches and people like still talk about it to this day, or maybe that's just me, but very often we always have at least like a couple G1 nights or a couple Super Junior nights. And like, I always implore people, like, go back and watch those shows. They're fucking incredible, but like, they don't tend to draw as many votes as you would think. Yeah. I think I'm a little surprised to see how New Beginning in Osaka's doing. I thought that was going to get a lot more first place votes. Also, you had the Brian Saber match. You had the Dog Pound Cage match.
I think I voted that as my number 1 show.
So did I.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But right now it looks like Wrestle Kingdom 18 is getting a lot of the love for the show of the year with first place votes.
You know how it is when it's a marquee show, when it's like a King of Pro Wrestling or a Dominion or a Wrestle Kingdom, or for some reason people are more apt to vote for the G1 finals. Even though those are almost always a 1-match show, people are more apt to vote for that than say like night 6. If night 6 had full of bangers, they're not going to vote for that.
Yeah.
They're going to vote for the big one in Sumaha or Osaka Joha or whatever.
Dude, G1 night 1 has almost a little bit more first place votes than New Beginning in Osaka right now.
Okay, well it's doing well, so that's great. So
yeah, Power Struggle
just proves
is right up there with Wrestle Kingdom 18. So.
Well, Power Struggle was a really great show, and that just occurred recently. I feel like maybe the Chicago show, Windy City Riot, is a little bit overlooked because of some of the negative connotations that came out of it, like the associations with like all the Western guys, and then John Moxley won the title. But like top to bottom, from a quality standpoint, it's one of the best shows of the year.
Yeah, we were there live. It was a great show.
But I'm not just saying it because we were there live. Like it really was like a really fantastic show. But it'll be interesting. Wrestle Kingdom usually wins this thing. I thought Wrestle Kingdom was very good, but maybe better than some other recent Wrestle Kingdoms, but maybe not. I didn't vote it as my number 1 show of the year. I thought Dominion didn't deliver the way it normally did either. And those are usually your 2 favorite shows. I kind of thought some of these other shows, whether it was Power Struggle, I voted New Beginning Saka number 1.
Yeah, that was my number 1. I think Wrestle Kingdom was my number 2, and I think I did Battle in the Valley for my number 3.
You know, we got to a weird point with Forbidden Door where like Forbidden Door was a crossover show and it's co-promoted, but like I guess technically we could have like nominated as a match of the year. We could have potentially nominated like Will Ospreay versus
Swerve,
but it was like an AEW guy versus AEW guy for the AEW title, and it didn't feel at all related to New Japan, so it felt like a cop out to try and like throw that on our ballot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of that that show was very good. There were some really, especially like the Zach and OC match and the Shingo Bryan match. Those really delivered, but it didn't feel the same way to me as some of the other Forbidden Door shows have.
Yeah, it's starting to get to like almost a questionable point. Like I know it's co-promoted, but like if New Japan guys don't start getting put in like top spots, like this, just can we still count this on our ballot?
I mean, I guess we have to because the kayfabe says it's co-promoted, but I mean, we know the reality is that it's an AEW show that just involves New Japan, really.
Yeah. So a great set of contenders there for show of the year. Next up, we have the Jushin Thunder Liger Jr. of the year. Nominees: Doki, El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi, Kosei Fujita, Robbie Eagles, and TJP.
Yeah, there's some names that are on there that at first glance you might not have expected to be on there, and then some names that you'd expect to be on there that were kind of left off. And a lot of the methodology that went into this was like the trajectories that these guys took, their standing within their groups, the quality of output that they had in terms of matches, their achievements throughout the year. I feel like the top 2 stalwarts in the division are going to be obviously like Desperado and Hiromu, who had very interesting years, maybe not the kind of typical years that we're used to seeing from those two guys, being that they are like the main stars of the division. They kind of took a back seat to allow for the rise of Doki in the division as he defeated both of them. And then they both kind of had their own side quests going on, but nonetheless, they were both busy. They both had a lot of really great matches. I still think at the end of the day, Desperado was probably the MVP in this year's Super Juniors. It seems like we forget, but Desperado did win the best of the Super Juniors this year, which, that almost got washed away immediately. But he finally kind of overcame that. But it was a stranger year for those two guys than we're used to seeing from them.
Yeah. I think the junior division, it seemed to kind of really circle around some of those top guys, especially Doki. I mean, obviously Doki had a great year this year and finally winning the junior title and beating the big 3 and beating Desperado, Ishimori, who I forgot to mention here, Taiji Ishimori, Hiromu Takahashi, and Desperado. So great year there for Doki, and then Desperado getting hurt. Kind of missed half the year here, so not being able to have a full-on great year. But I think the time he had was still great enough to be on there. Fujita, a guy who really broke out, and obviously as him and Eagles, the tag team with Ichiban Sweet Boys was great. But I think individually they had great stuff too. And then you had TJP, who kind of stepped up to be the captain of United Empire, kind of did more open weight stuff. And a
lot of the matches he had like over deliver. And I know we talk about how talented he is and how reliable he is. And sure, we get our jokes off about the Oswong and everything like that. But, end of the day, this is probably the best year he's had in New Japan. And he's had some good years.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a solid in-ring year for him. So yeah, that's junior of the year. Yeah, I voted.
One thing I wanted to point out, we had a champion this year in show. We left off the ballot because when we started, and trust me, this isn't some sour grape shit. Like we tried to find the angle or the argument, devil's advocate, to keep him on the ballot given that he won the junior title this calendar year, and we just not with any level of integrity, we just could not keep him on. Based on his output, it was so horrendous. Combining that with the way he won the title, and maybe, the match with Yo wasn't his fault. That ended due to injury. But like when you compile it all together, it's like this might be one of the only like world quote unquote champions that we've left off of a ballot because their year was so horrendous. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. I voted Doki as my number one here. I think his year, a rise of a star, great title matches, first time as champion. Yep.
I don't remember all of who I voted, but I know I had Doki number one, and I feel he'll probably sweep this one up. I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah. Then tag team of the year, we have the Bebop trio. That is Tanahashi, Yano, and Bolton Oleg, your current Never Openweight 6-man champions. We have Bishamon, Catch 2-2, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, Ichiban Sweet Boys, Intergalactic Jet Setters, and Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols.
A lot of great teams, a lot of great champions. A lot of these guys have held titles throughout the year. For me, I feel like it really probably most likely comes down to a two-way race between Bishamon and Bullet Club War Dogs, the junior team. Mm-hmm. The voting audience might have a differing opinion on that for sure. This seems to be one of those categories for whatever reason. Anytime I have a view on what the tag team division has looked like or whatever, I'm always wrong. So don't take what I'm taking, what I'm saying as gospel, but like if you wanted my opinion on it, I feel like those are your two primary leading tag teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, Connors and Maloney have the most first place votes, so a lot of love going to those guys. Ichiban Sweet Boys have a lot of second place votes. Catch 2-2 have more first place votes than Bishamon, so it seems like people are showing love to the junior tag team division. I feel like, the junior tag teams were kind of the kingpins of the tag team wrestling in New Japan this year. Between Bullet Club War Dogs, Sweet Boys, Jet Setters, and Catch 2-2, I think you look for tag team wrestling. They had the best tag team matches. Also, like you mentioned, Bishamon, I mean, they in this grading period, they won World Tag League again, so 3-time World Tag League winners, also always in the heavyweight tag team picture. So they do have a strong case there, but also the junior tag guys have a really great case. Haste and Nichols, double champions this year. And then the Bebop trio, they were, never 6-man champs pretty much the whole year. They would drop them to House of Torture and get them right back. So, I mean, they've kind of been kayfabe the best trio unit, and they do have one first place vote so far. So somebody thinks they are the best tag team of the year.
I almost told Jeremy we should leave them off, but then I was like, well, kayfabe's kayfabe. And I mean, they did hold the titles all year, so there's that.
Yeah, so they got one first place, one second place, and 2 third place votes. So
wow, got some Yano fans out there. Let me guess. The person that voted them number one is Josh, number 2.
Maybe I'm not looking right now at the individuals, but could be him.
If it says Josh M, we know who it is.
So next up, the Carl Gotch Strong Style Award. So I'll see this is the award here that somebody that kind of really encapsulates the strong style as far as the hard hitting and the realistic fights. It's a mission based style of wrestling. So our nominees, we have David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Great Okan, Hanare, Hiroki Goto, Shingo Takagi, Tomohiro Ishii, and Zack Sabre Jr.
This was a tough one because there was a lot of great quality and a lot of bad motherfuckers who were involved in this division who just went to war all year and really had something to prove. So it was difficult to kind of say which of you guys is the manliest, For many years now, it has seemed like Tomohiro Ishii and Shingo Takagi have been the guys that have sort of trailblazed and sort of ran rampant in this voting category. And I think for the first time ever, I've voted, well, not ever, because I think the first year we had Shibata and he won it. But for the first time in many years, I voted somebody else number one. That was neither Shingo nor Tomohiro Ishii. And I don't think I even voted Ishii at all.
Yeah, I didn't vote Ishii either. Yeah, Shingo has won this thing, I think, like 4 years in a row now.
He's won it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 years in a row.
Including years where I didn't necessarily think he should have won it, but he did anyways. And I mean, it's always deserved, but
yeah, I like you, I typically vote Shingo and Ishii as my 1 and 2. But yeah, I didn't vote Shingo number 1. For me, Gabe Kidd was my number 1. And again, you look back through his cage match and some of the matches he's had with guys like Zack Sabre and Hanare and Shingo, a lot of guys on this list, and like they were very hard hitting matchups.
I voted Hanare as my number 1 Karl Gotch award winner. And when you look at, yes, it's true. When you look at the match of the year contenders list, Gabe Kidd shows up there a lot. But when you look at the strong style fight of the year list, and don't get me wrong, Gabe's there a lot too, but Hanare's there a fucking lot, bro.
Yeah.
And considering how much he was out and like the amount of matches he had that just continually popped up on this, I was like, I don't know, bro. He was kicking a lot of ass.
Yeah, it's showing in the voting right now. First place, guys that are very close with first place votes, Gabe, Hanare, Goto, and Shingo are the guys they're all like 1 vote away from each other as far as first place votes.
In the early years of this voting, Goto was always on these awards, and then he fell off for a while where like it was like, yeah, he kind of got usurped by some of these younger, more violent, guys. And yeah, he's kind of back. I mean, he had some. I mean, the match with Takeshita everyone was raving about. He had some really, really hard hitting stuff there, and there's some other good candidates on the list too. So, in some ways, I know people complain about the house style of New Japan, but this throughout the year, it kind of felt like there was some resurgence of the never style that we like to see.
Yeah, and definitely a down year here for Tomohiro Ishii as he spent a lot of the year in AEW, wasn't in G1, and that's reflecting in the voting here. Not a ton of votes going Ishii's way, and it's a guy who I believe he won this award at one point. It's always a second or third place placer in this award. So that's Karl Gotch Strong Style Award. Next up, we have the Big Van Vader Gaijin of the Year or Foreigner of the Year. I don't know if we should change that because I know we keep getting told that Gaijin's not, I guess, the appropriate.
Until someone complains, I'm not going to change it. I grew up as a tape trader. We said that where we didn't fucking care. Like, I don't live in Japan. Yeah. If Karen hits me up and she tells us to change it, then I guess we'll change it. But until someone says, "Oh, I'm not," keep it on the deal. Keep it on the deal.
Yeah. So yeah, Big Van Vader Gaijin of the Year, the best foreign wrestler in New Japan. So this year the nominees are Bolton Oleg, Clark Connors and Drill Maloney, Dave Finley, El Phantasmo, Gabe Kidd, Hanare, Jack Perry, Jeff Cobb, John Moxley, Robbie Eagles, Haste and Nichols, and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, so we've given you, we've talked somewhat about almost everybody on that list because almost everybody on the list was nominated earlier in one of our other categories. The two names that kind of stick out that we probably need to discuss briefly that we don't have nominated anywhere else are Jack Perry and John Moxley, which I think both of those guys, while usually we don't include too many people that are signed with other companies, both guys had extensive dates with New Japan and had a pretty significant effect on business and storylines, especially John Moxley holding the title for a prolonged period, working some pretty big houses in the States as well as Japan. And then obviously, Jack Perry aligning with House of Torture, the feuds he had with Shota Umino, which, looking back on the year, Shota Umino wound up in the Tokyo Dome at the end of this year. And it feels like that Jack Perry feud was in some ways pivotal to getting him there.
Yeah, so if you look at their years, just how kind of baked in they were into what's going on in New Japan. Yeah, I mean, Perry joining a faction. I mean, there was that big angle of him kind of ripping up the AEW contract. And so, quote unquote, I guess technically he was a New Japan guy during that beginning part of the year before they brought him back into the Elite and stuff like that. And they had Jon Moxley winning the IWGP Championship and doing some dates. He did a lot more dates than I think people thought he was going to do. Worked a preview tag match, defended the title against Umino, Narita, Evil, Naito. So, I mean, he had a lot of defenses.
Yeah, and the thing too is if we're going to give as much credit as we talked about to Naito for the effect he had on business during his run, you kind of also have to point to that when it comes to Jon Moxley. For better or for worse, whatever the fallout might have been after it was all said and done, at the time, Jon Moxley was making a huge difference to the bottom line of New Japan and to the attention that they were gaining during that second quarter of the year. So, and that's undeniable. We might forget about that. Oftentimes it's what have you done for me lately? But Jon Moxley, I think he has an actual strong case for being the foreigner of the year. That being said, I still voted Zach, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some votes for Jon Moxley, honestly.
Yeah, I also voted Zach as well. And yeah, right now, overwhelmingly, people who are voting for Zach right now in first place. Moxley actually not getting a ton of votes so far. A lot of love to Dave Finlay and Gabe Kidd right now after Zach.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So next up, we have most improved. So I'll see the wrestler that's improved the most, and that's going to be from an in-ring standpoint, gimmick, kayfabe. So again, that kind of depending on how you want to vote here. But our nominees are Bolton Oleg, Callum Newman, David Finlay, Doki, Gabe Kidd, Hanare, Kevin Knight, Kosei Vegeta, and Yota Tsuji.
I mean, yeah, some of these guys, like some of the dudes returning from excursion, you can kind of point to them and kind of see the strides that they made throughout the year. Like you mentioned, Callum Newman, Yota Tsuji. Those are guys that are very clearly like still finding their way, but also made huge improvements throughout the year. Other people who like took huge steps forward, not just in terms of their work, but in terms of their perception. David Finlay is one of those guys. Doki's one of those guys. Kevin Knight, a guy that seems to have really found himself in a lot of ways and kind of become more comfortable in his skin. There's a lot of great candidates. Obviously, Bolton Oleg kind of like graduating, getting into the G1, debuting the Blue Trunks. I mean, there's some really good candidates across the board.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it there. I don't have much more to add, but yeah, I mean, Callum Newman, just like the amount of size that he put on and just how he came into himself. Obviously, him and Bolton winning in the G1 qualifiers, getting the G1. So yeah, a lot of really great guys here that really stepped up in 2024.
I don't recall, but I think I voted Dave Finlay number one.
Yeah, I think Finlay was my number one as well. And that's reflecting in the voting as well for the general public that voted so far. Finlay getting a lot of love in the first place votes.
And I know I voted Kevin Knight maybe third. I think I had Doki number two, just based on, I mean, Doki's always been great, but like he's the fucking man now.
Yeah, he elevated from being as kind of like a pin eater guy to being a face of the whole division. So following this, we have a newer award that's come on in the last couple of years, the Joshi of the Year, recognizing the IWGP and strong women matches that have happened throughout the year, even if they happened in other promotions like Stardom. So our nominees are Azumi, Julia, Mayu Iwatani, Mercedes Moné, Momo Watanabe, and Stephanie Baker.
Yeah, so I mean, some of those names are going to be those individuals that held either the IWGP Women's title or the Strong Women's title during the grading period. So you're looking at, I mean, Mayu, she held the IWGP title the entirety of that run, which is probably going to be one of the reasons that a lot of people favor her. Also, combining that with the strength of her title defense record and quality of matches. But you also have some other strong contenders, Stephanie McClure, a big name in when she was the strong champion and kind of showcasing that talent on the strong brand during that period where some of those US shows were being held in bigger buildings and were kind of drawing more attention. I mean, and then, obviously dropping that title to Mercedes later in the year on that significant AEW New Japan, I want to call it Worlds Collide. What the fuck's Forbidden Door show? And that was maybe one of the best matches of the night and led to her getting signed to WWE and leaving, Mexico and Japan. Mm-hmm. Mercedes, obviously one of the biggest names in AEW. She's had dates in Japan now, as well as in the States and everything like that, and had some very, very good defenses of that title. But there's a few other names on here that have been included that weren't necessarily like champions, but like Azumi. Julia was champion too. She dropped the title to Stephanie McClure in the early part of the year, but she also had some really good title defenses in Stardom prior to that. But the names of people who didn't hold titles but are worth consideration: Azumi, Momo Watanabe, and was Mina on there?
No, Mina was not on here.
Okay, so the only other two that I'm thinking of are just those two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, both of them were involved extensively in undercard tag matches as well as singles matches throughout the year, whether that was title challenges in Stardom or in Japan or the US, as well as working a lot of the women's matches throughout the year and putting in significant and meaningful matches and wins. So, for me, I think it's really a no-brainer. It's really going to come down to most likely how you feel either about Mercedes or Mayu. But I do think there's a strong case to be made for Stephanie McClure, depending on how much weight you give to her period while she was still with the company.
Yeah, for me, I voted Mayu. I mean, she was the Iron Woman of the IWGP title. Over 600 days as champion. I think 9 or 10 defenses of the title. Incredible. Each of those matches incredible. And so I think Mayu really elevated the kind of the status of the IWGP Women's title, even though it was mainly defended in Stardom. I still think that title really showed importance with Mayu holding it in the defense that she's having, and that's playing out in the voting as well. A ton of first place votes right now for Mayu, with all the other women kind of having equal kind of footing after Mayu. So it seems like a lot of people really kind of buying into what Mayu did, but also we're still day one in voting, so this thing can definitely swing. If the Mercedes gang, whatever they're called now, get a hold of this thing, we could see it swing Mercedes' way, but right
they're
now
not called Crew anymore.
I don't know what they're called now.
Let me just say something real quick. Fuck the Crew. They're not gonna hear this, bro. We're 2 hours and 27 minutes in. It'd be insane if any of them heard that.
Yeah. So
get doxed.
So that's Joshi of the year. Next up, feud of the year. So we have David Finlay versus Yota Tsuji. Dirty Work versus West Coast Wrecking Crew. I guess they're world class Wrecking Crew now. Eddie Kingston versus Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd versus Shingo Takagi. Hanare versus Shingo Takagi. House of Torture versus Hantai. Jeff Cobb versus Yota Tsuji. Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. United Empire versus Bullet Club War Dogs. And Yuya Uemura versus Yota Tsuji.
That's a lot to remember. It's going to be tough to kind of suss out what your feelings were as far as what defined best feud, because we've had some years where it's the best in-ring feud. Like there's not necessarily as much emotion or heated rivalry, blood feud, that sort of thing. It's more about the quality of the matches that are taking place. Other times we've had it where, like, one year Minoru Suzuki and Liger won it, and they only had the one singles match, but the angles involving it, the story revolving around it, were so heated that it won feud of the year, which was kind of we almost didn't believe it, but yeah, it happened. And this year's kind of a mixed bag, because there's some really heated stuff like you mentioned Gabe Kidd and Eddie Kingston. That's one that I think people forget, but like was super hot when it was happening and had great angles. And then unfortunately ended with Eddie getting hurt. But that big title switch. Obviously United Empire versus
Bullet Club War Dogs.
That was one that like they were like, we can't contain this match. We got to do a fucking War Games, which was crazy. But then there was other stuff like, Shingo and Zach. I challenge you to find 3 better matches from any individuals this year. You're going to be hard pressed to find that. There's a couple other nominees here that could maybe give them a run for their money.
Yeah, Hanare and Shingo had 3 matches as well that were great.
That were really great. Yep, that's true.
And also,
it's gonna be tough.
Gabe and Shingo also had 3 matches too that were great. But yeah, I mean, also
because when you and I were discussing them, I was getting those 6 matches confused with one another a lot because they were all very similar in terms of the violence.
Yeah, and then House of Torture versus Tontai. I mean, that feud's pretty much been the whole kind of a backbone rivalry of the whole year. That started off the year with Umino against Narita and Evil, which just kind of rolled into now, Tanahashi going against those guys and El Phantasmo against those guys. So, I mean, it's been kind of the overarching feud. So if you're talking about like a long-term feud that probably has the most matches, maybe not the most great matches. Yeah, but significance and most matches, that House of Torture versus Hantai feud is definitely one to consider there.
West Coast Wrecking Crew versus Dirty Work. I know it happened on the smaller shows, but like the level of violence and the commitment those guys had to following through with their plans, they definitely did it. And reactions to the matches were mixed, but I really enjoyed what they did, and I thought that the angles involved with it were really well done too. So I think there's a lot of great stuff there. I don't remember, but I think I voted United Empire War Dogs as my number 1 feud for the year.
That's what I voted as well for my number 1, and that's what a lot of other people are voting for the number 1 right now. That's overwhelmingly have the most first place votes right now currently.
Wow, and I haven't looked at these results at all, so interesting.
So moving on to the next category here, we have the faction of the year. So our nominees: Bullet Club War Dog, Chaos / Hantai, House of Torture, Just 4 Guys, LIJ, TMDK, and United Empire.
Yeah, so one interesting change you'll notice on the ballot, we combined Hantai and Chaos, because at this point, there's basically no difference between those two. They're essentially the same group. And until we get a more definitive delineation between the two groups, they're going to stay that way on the ballot. Conversely, we split up Bullet Club, the War Dogs, and House of Torture. They're basically completely separate entities. You can argue amongst yourselves where the Rogue Army and the OGs fall within those, but those are your 2 primary units. So that's another interesting thing. But it feels like this is, for many, many, many years, it felt like LIJ was just the runaway, always took home this award for many years. A couple of years they got threatened, but for the most part, they've always won this award. I think there's one year where United Empire won it, and that was a big deal. But this year, I don't know. I get the feeling, like for me personally, I voted 3 different names. None of them were LIJ, and maybe I'm unique in that. I don't know. I haven't looked at the results, but I'm pretty sure I voted War Dogs number 1. I think I got TMDK and United Empire as like my number 2 and number 3 somehow. So, which is also funny because that's all white. Groups, they just happen to do it's not aimed, it's not an anti-Japanese thing, but those groups just seem to be better to me this year. I don't know.
Yeah. I voted TMDK. It's my number 1 because I just felt like it was their year with Zach as the front man and winning the title in G1. And you have Ichiban Sweet Boys winning Junior Tag League, having a great year. Hayes and Nichols, double champions this year. So I just feel like overall as a unit, and a lot of people agree with me here at TMDK right now, overwhelmingly with the most first place votes. And like you mentioned,
really,
yes, it's usually an LIJ award, which LIJ, they do have a good number of first place, but they are not close to TMDK. And United Empire, as of right now, no first place votes for United Empire. They have a lot of second and third place votes. Bullet Club War Dogs with a lot of first and second place votes as well.
I went with War Dogs just because like the rise of Gabe, the advancement of Finley, they won that huge feud with UE, the dominance of Clark and Maloney. That all to me was like, and then obviously like it's not the world title, but like that white belt's pretty sweet. It's had a lot of good title defenses with it. Like I don't know, and to me, United Empire has seemed like less cohesive than in the past. Like they all work together, right? They do, but you don't see them like buddy as much these days as when the unit first appeared a couple years ago, where they were like always, cracking jokes and riffing and stuff like that. They're kind of more just like each person is off doing their thing for the most part. But like the War Dogs are very like tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. UE's had a weird year, obviously, with Will Ospreay leaving in February, and then you have guys, TJP kind of jockeying for the captain spot, and obviously Callum Newman's slotted in. You bring in Jacob Austin Young, and now Templario. So the group's just kind of in a weird place, and then Hanare's out with an injury right now, and so yeah, the group's kind of been in this kind of up and down swing since the Bullet Club feud. So yeah, kind of a weird year, kind of rebuilding year for them. But yeah, Bullet Club War Dogs, I think they've had a great year. I can see why they're getting some love in the awards here with first place. So yeah, lots of good factions to choose from here.
Oh, Contai.
Then our newcomer of the year, we have Daiki Nagai, Jack Perry, Jacob Austin Young, Jake Lee, Katsuya Murashima, Masatora Yasuda, Matt Riddle, Nick Nemeth, Roy Oiwa, Shomakato, and Yuya Uemura.
Yes, I mean, a few different categories. There are a lot of guys returning from excursions that were gone. We kind of always count it like when they return from excursion, that's sort of like their second coming. So it's like a second new coming. But then you have all the young lions that have just kind of made their arrivals into the company. You'll notice some of the Westerners that were a little bit divisive in Matt Riddle and Nick Nemeth, but both guys held titles and maybe didn't work extensive dates, but they worked a little bit more than people probably realize. And for that reason alone, at least got to throw them on the ballot there. We talked about Jack Perry. One of the big ones was Jake Lee defecting from Noah, and who knows where that was going to go because he unfortunately got injured, but it seemed to be on track for something in the future. We'll see what the follow-up on that is. But any interesting names that you're seeing that I didn't discuss?
No, I think you pretty much got the big ones there. Right now, the two that are getting the most love in a battle for first is Oiwa and Uemura. And also, I think Oiwa has gotten a lot of love with his the Noah excursion, the work he's did there, and also coming back, being a part of TMDK. And we talked about it, just how hard he's been working and all the tours that he's been a part of. Uemura is kind of weird. He kind of came back in a weird time to where he kind of fell into this year's grading period as a newcomer, even though it kind of feels he's been around for a while now. And he was having a great year before he got hurt in G1 as well. So those are the two guys that are kind of jockeying for love right now in the first place. But yeah, great mix of young lions. Jacob Austin Young coming in from Strong, joining UE, and then also I voted
Uemura. He won the KOPW. He beat Takeshita, the first guy to beat Takeshita in the G1. I thought he was having a really good run there before the injury. And I think just based off that, I like what Oiwa's done, but I feel like I voted Uemura because of the longevity. Plus, he had the big win in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I went with Oiwa as my number one.
Wow.
I feel like there was a lot of fanfare of him, and I feel like he made a big splash. Also, I don't think he didn't have the kayfabe maybe accomplishment as Uemura, but I feel like he came for a big splash and kind of knew who he was from day one, versus where Uemura is still trying to find his footing as a Heat Storm and kind of how he fits in Just Five Guys and kind of what his
four guys.
Just four guys, yeah, what his character is. So that's where I went with Oiwa over Uemura. Then our young lion of the year. So we currently have 4 active young lions. So Daiki Nagai, Katsuya Murashima, Masatori Isuda, and Shoma Kato. Right now, Daiki Nagai, also he's one of the favorites of this current crops of young lions. So he's getting a lot of love right now in the voting. But also, there have been years when we have more young lions, but right now it's these 4 active guys. So, and they've all been doing good. But I feel like we've talked about Daiki and Yasuda kind of being a little ahead of the curve versus Kato and Murashima.
I feel like if you added Oleg Bolton right now, he'd win.
Yeah, he possibly could, because we're still very early in the voting, so there'll be hundreds more votes that will come in the next couple of weeks. So I mean, everything right now can shift based on what I'm seeing. But yeah, I mean, if I did add Bolton, I'm sure people who come in after what's already here would swing that his way.
But I'm pretty sure I voted Daiki Nagai, just like his attitude, and he hits hard.
Same. I also voted for Daiki. Then next up, we have the Fighting Spirit Award. So this kind of awards either like a big kayfabe accomplishment or like a big like real world accomplishment. So you'll kind of see that what we have here. So nominees, we have Bishamon with the World Tag League hat trick. So 3 World Tag Leagues in a row. Doki, the new face of the junior division. Goto, the Resurgent Warrior. Finley, the Global Goat Slayer. Hanare, Dog Pound Cage Match Survivor. Ichiban Sweet Boys, first tournament win. Kojima, Major League Champion. Mayu, IWGP Iron Woman. Naito, Double Destino. Tsuji, Next Gen Finalist. And ZSJ brought home the IWGP.
I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, I guess it's kind of fucked up we left TMDK off after they chased for the IWGP tag titles for so long. We didn't put them on there.
They probably should have been on there. Yeah,
there was a couple other things where, like, how when you watch the Road to Tokyo Dome and they do the year end recap.
Yeah,
there was a couple things where, like, I was like, oh, that was. Probably could have thrown that on the Fighting Spirit. Or there were some significant things that happened that I in this moment I don't totally recall. But I think we've got a good list of the meaningful moments, the important things that happened in New Japan this year. I guess we could have thrown the Okada retirement on there, really.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But whatever. But yeah, no. And I don't know if there's much discussion that needs to be had there. I think you did a great job giving catchy little titles to each one of those moments to kind of give them a brief descriptor. And it's like, if you don't know what those things mean, then you're probably not watching the product enough to understand what you're voting on.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty clear. Right now, Zack Sabre bringing the IWGP home is getting a lot of love in the first place votes.
I'm pretty sure I voted that number 1. I do think that maybe we could have, a lot of this is my fault. I'm like criticizing. Let's keep it a buck here. Like, I'm the reason that these awards are out so late. And this is probably the least I've contributed to the awards ever. So, my bad. But I do think we could, instead of like Double Destino, we could have like somehow acknowledged the business that, him being top draw or something. I don't know. Yeah. There's also, Moxley winning the title in Chicago was a pretty big moment. Could have thrown that on there, but it's fine. I think we've got the most significant moments, and I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think anything's going to beat the Zach. Because, I mean, how much more significant can you get than that? I mean, fuck.
Yeah, I voted Hanare number 1 just because
I saw that he was doing well. But that was like that was when there was only like 5 votes, and I haven't looked since then.
Since then, I mean, Zach bringing it home is overwhelmingly number 1. Hanare has gotten a chunk of first place votes, but it's mainly Zach right now. Zach, Goto, Hanare are the ones that have a lot of first place votes, but Zach with a ton of first place votes.
Some of the ones I thought about were like the injuries, like Oiwa finishing that match with his broken arm and shit.
You mean Uemura?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Uemura. So stuff like that. I don't know. We have a plan in place to improve the awards for 2025. Don't you worry.
So next up, Strong Style Fight of the Year. So we have Shingo Takagi versus Jon Moxley, Gabe Kidd versus Hanare, which I actually have the right date here this time. Dog Pound Cage match, Gabe Kidd versus Shingo, Eddie Kingston versus Gabe Kidd, Hanare versus Shingo from Dominion, Ishii versus Yoshihashi, Goto versus Takeshita, Finley versus Goto from G1, Gabe versus Zack, Hanare versus Hiromu, and Great Okan versus Suzu Suzuki.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of interesting. There's a variety of different categories of matches that you could kind of classify. I mean, you've got some really bloody, gimmicked matches like that hardcore match and the dog pound cage match and the street fight between Moxley and Shingo Takagi. Those kind of stand out. But then you've got, your more classic hard-hitting never style matches, the stuff involving Shingo, Hanare, Gabe Kidd, Taichi, like that stuff is all, what you're getting there, and that's going to be tough to see how people delineate between the similarities in those styles of matches and see if there's one that maintains its like hold on people's imaginations when they're voting, because there was a match with the Hanare and Shingo match that ended in a double KO, and then there was a match with Hanare and Gabe Kidd that ended in double KO, and I kept getting them confused when we were trying to like.
So was I.
Yeah, and you were too, and then we had to look, and I was like, oh, they did two of them like a few months apart. So, there's that. And then there was some stuff that like was in the G1 that doesn't really fit either of those molds, but just was spectacular and hard hitting enough to where it's like, kind of got to include this. I was almost wondering, like, should we include Danielson and Saber because of the technical acumen? But I don't think we had enough room on this year's ballot. But it's a tough year. It really is. And these are the best fucking fights, which I love. This is one of my favorite categories we have.
Yeah, right now the front runners are the dog pound cage match, Goto versus Takeshita, Finley versus Goto, and Gabe Kidd versus Hanare are the ones that are really tight right now.
Yeah, the Finley Hanare match was very hard hitting, but I would almost argue it was less violent than a lot of these matches that we included, but because of the emotion behind it and Goto's kids and where it was in the G1, it sticks out. And I feel like that's one reason people are apt to vote for that one. The funny thing is, like, I don't know why. I think I probably need to go back and rewatch it, but for whatever reason, Goto Takeshita is just lost in the fog of G1 for me. I don't remember that match. And when you and I were talking about it, I was like, should we cut that? I don't even remember it. You were like, no.
Yeah, like that match.
I think it's a lock. It's one of the best matches of the year.
Yeah, it was so hard hitting, and it's getting a lot of first place votes. So I'm glad I fought for that one because it was an awesome matchup.
Don't act like you had a fight. Like I've ever said no to something you wanted to do. I went to bat for that shit. I think I voted dog pound number 1, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I voted dog pound number 1 as well. Then junior match of the year, we had Soberano Jr. versus Templario, Catch 2-2 versus War Dogs versus Jet Setters, Desperado versus Kosei Vegeta, Hiromu Takahashi versus Robbie Eagles, Taiji Ishimori versus TJP, Desperado versus Doki, Desperado versus Taiji Ishimori, Doki versus Taiji Ishimori, War Dogs versus Catch 2-2, and Catch 2-2 versus Ichiban Sweet Boys.
Some really great stuff there. It's impressive how many junior tag team matches are on that list. There's always a few, but there's more than normal. It's also interesting. I know that like we feel pretty confident Doki's taking this thing away, but isn't it interesting how many fewer truly top end, highly acknowledged great matches he has than some of the other guys in the division? But I feel like he's kind of I don't want to say getting the pass, but he's getting the nod more so based off of the accomplishments in kayfabe than the actual work itself. Not to say that his work hasn't been good, but if you boil it down and you kind of look at what he's done this year in terms of in-ring work, and then like Robbie Eagles, you'll be surprised.
Right. And then you look at the junior tag teams. I mean, look how many times, Catch 2-2 and War Dogs are on this thing. And then you have the Ichiban Sweet Boys junior title match. So, yeah, junior tag teams really stepped up this year and were kind of the highlights of the junior division. And then a lot of great stuff from Super Juniors, the Super Junior Finals with Despy and Ishimori. We even got some fantastic Mania acts in here with Soberano.
If you don't vote for Soberano and Templario, at least at number 3, you're racist. So I'm just throwing that out there. With that being said, I didn't vote for them, but I voted for 2 tag team matches in my number 1 and number 2 spot, which is the first time I've ever done that for this award. And I think I could be wrong on that, but I definitely voted for 2 tag team matches out of my 3. And I know for a fact that Catch 2-2 Ichiban Sweet Boys was my number 1 for the year, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That
was also my number 1.
Oh yeah. The only singles match I voted out of my 3 was that kind of slept on Hiromu and Robbie Eagles match, which I thought was blow away.
Yeah, I'm forgetting now what my other 2 votes were, but yeah, my number 1 was definitely Catch 2-2 Ichiban. I think I might have voted War Dogs Catch 2-2 as my number 2.
That was the other one I voted for.
Yeah, but Ichiban Sweet Boys Catch 2-2 right now is getting the overwhelmingly amount of first place votes, which again, for our award, I don't think a junior tag match has ever won.
Never.
The junior match of the year, since that's been included.
That's huge. It's never happened.
Then next up, we have the Joshi match of the year. So we have Julia versus Zumi, Julia versus Megan Bain, Maya Iwatani versus Shuri, Julia versus Natsuko Tora, Stephanie Vaquer versus Zumi, Maya Iwatani versus Sari, Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer, Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe, Maya Iwatani versus Toni Storm, and Maya Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe.
Yeah, so this one's almost got a little bit of that excursion of the year flair to it. It's no secret that New Japan, they've got a women's division, I guess, in theory, but a lot of the title matches take place outside of the company. And in that same spirit, we kind of acknowledge those title matches as being part of these awards. So, we had matches in Rev Pro, we had matches in CMLL, we had matches in Stardom. There was actually an IWGP women's match that took place. I think it was in Ice Ribbon. So, Mayu took the title there, and that match was, I forget who it was against, but it was on pace to be one of the matches, and then it ended in an unfortunate injury, kind of like that like when Kota Ibushi got hurt against Okada in the G1 finals. Something similar to that happened there. But yeah, obviously, there's a lot of matches there. We're not a Stardom podcast, even though they're, I guess, technically, they're owned by, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they're under the subsidiary, but we don't cover that as much as, say, like One Nation Radio. So it's not like we can break down every single one of these matches, but these are the matches that were most heralded that occurred in the calendar year. I think it's going to be interesting to see if some of the really highly acclaimed matches that Mayu had in Stardom, like let's say there was one with Sari, and there's one in the beginning of the year against I think Shuri, that are really, really, really highly rated, how they're going to perform against, like, say, her match with Momo, or maybe some of Mercedes Moné's matches that have a few more Western eyeballs on them, and therefore might get more of the voting attention, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right now, Maya versus Momo is the overwhelmingly first place right now.
Which makes sense, you know. Again, like I said earlier in the show, if you haven't seen all these matches, they're worth your while to go out of your way and find them. And you know, even if you don't use them to vote, which you should, it'll benefit you greatly. This is some of the best women's wrestling that occurred in the year. Everything that was nominated was highly, you know, acclaimed and very, very good. So a lot of great shit out there from all over the world.
Yeah. So we're winding down here. Only a couple more categories. So next up, we have the Angle of the Year. We have Ren Narita turning on Shota Umino during the World Tag League, December 6, 2023. We have Nick Nemeth and David Finlay fighting at Wrestle Kingdom 18. The Bull Club War Dogs traumatizing Francisco Akira at New Year's Dash. Jack Perry attacking Shota Umino and tearing up his AEW contract, Battle of Valley. Jack Perry joining House of Torture during the New Japan Cup. Jake Lee debuting and attacking Tetsuya Naito in April. The Young Bucks attacking Eddie Kingston at Resurgence. Oiwa joining TMDK in September. Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, the backstage fight at Power Struggle. And then also Sonata turning on Just Five Guys at Power Struggle.
Yeah, this is a tough category because some years there seems to be something that is just industry shaking, altering, and is indelible in the minds and of the fans, you know, like for instance, that year when Cody turned on Kenny and like it led to like, you know, half a year of storylines, shit like that. But this year I feel like there was a lot of, it's another reason it's tough is because me and Jeremy have not always done the best job keeping track of all the best angles. So we're trying to have to like rack our brain, you know, a year later and remember what did or didn't take place. So there's that. But there's some stuff that is really impactful when it happens and everyone's talking about it and then it's quickly forgotten and it doesn't seem to have the long lasting effect of other things. Like it's hot in the building or it's hot on social media. And then there's some things where it's not as big a deal, but then the storylines develop around it and it gains more prominence or more importance. It also depends on how much promotion is given to some of these angles, how much attention the company puts on some of these things for the fans to know about them or follow up on them. So to me, I didn't feel like I'm sure there is probably a clear-cut candidate at this point in time, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a runaway year to me where it was like there was one thing that just, for sure, the moment you looked at it on the ballot, you're like, there's nothing that isn't. A lot of stuff happened that was great, but it kind of felt very even, which is maybe part of that, you know, discussion we've been having about the freshness and excitement of New Japan needing to be, you know, kind of upped.
Yeah, and as I went through it and find the angles, like I feel like there weren't. Also, New Japan is not always a super angle heavy company anyway, but especially this year, I didn't feel like there were a ton of angles. But I think that they could definitely utilize more next year to kind of build heat and intrigue in some of these rivalries. Right now, there's a few angles that are kind of competing for first. So Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, backstage fight, Sonata turning on Just Five Guys, Bull Club War Dogs traumatizing Francisco Akira, and Ren Narita turning on Shota Umino are kind of the ones that are getting a lot of love right now.
Yeah, and see, I could see how there's an argument to be made for all those. In my mind, I feel like the one that was the best, like the one that was performed the best was Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd. But like, unless you're really plugged in, you probably don't know about it. There hasn't been hardly anything on the actual shows to point back to it happening. Yeah, they broadcast it on social media, but it's one of those things where like it didn't take off the way you think it should, but the implementation of it when it happened, like it's one of the best. It probably is the best angle that occurred. But then there's other stuff like you said, Sonata turning, that just happened on a big show and had a lot of attention on it. Same thing. I mean, turns always have like a lot of they gain a lot of attention. So I'm not surprised. Another thing too is like when the WWE guys showed up in at Wrestle Kingdom, that's like the biggest show of the year. That was like a huge deal. And then the follow-up was so lackluster that no one wants to vote for it. But in terms of like what gained the most notoriety, that probably was the thing that had the most attention at the time that it occurred.
Yeah, that Finley Ziggler fight, definitely got a lot of attention. So interesting to see like which one of those will eventually shake out. But yeah, lots of good angles to choose from there. Then almost done here. Tag team match of the year. We have Kiyomiya and Oiwa versus Narita and Umino from World Tag League last year. Narita and Umino versus Ishii and Yano from World Tag League last year. God 2.0 versus Bishamon from World Tag League last year. Okan, Hanare, and Cobb versus Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii. Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii versus Vegeta, Haste, and Nichols. The Dog Pound Cage match. War Dogs versus Catch 22 versus Jet Setters. Ichiban Sweet Boys versus War Dogs. Roppongi Revice versus Catch 22. And Catch 22 versus Ichiban Sweet Boys.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like you have a couple of the super team 6-man tag team matches at the tail end of the run with Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii, which both of those matches like are super, super, super high end stuff in the World Tag League, especially that finals. Really, really awesome. We've already talked extensively about all these different junior matches, and many of them got nominated here. And then obviously the Dog Pound Cage match, that's going to be a front runner. Anything I'm leaving out that I haven't like briefly touched on there?
No, I think we've pretty much covered all this stuff. And also there was some World Tag League stuff. So, the God 2.0 versus Bishamon World Tag League final.
That final was awesome.
Yeah, so that was something I haven't really touched on. So, yeah, that was a great finals of last year. And then, Narita and Umino, they had 2 matches from the Tag League. So, I mean, they were a great team. It sucks that, they turned Narita and put him in the House of Torture. But the stuff they were doing with Narita and Umino was cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that tag team, and it kind of sucked the way it all turned out. It feels like it's probably going to come down to it's going to be like, are they going to go with that junior tag team match that is, kind of leading the way for junior match of the year, or are they going to go with the Dog Pound Cage match, which is kind of leading the way for, most violent match of the year? So it feels to me like that's your 2 most likely candidates.
Well, those are the 2 with the most first place votes right now, with Ichiban Sweet Boys versus Catch 22 in the front over the Dog Pound Cage match.
It's a tough one. We'll see what the audience thinks.
Yeah, so still plenty of time for these to swing and shake out here over the next couple of weeks. And then second to last category here, the new story of the year. So we have Tanahashi being named president and representative director of NJPW, Ospreay, Okada, and Tama leaving NJPW, Nick Nemeth and Matt Riddle debuting, Bushi Road firing Stardom founder Rossi Ogawa, Alex Coughlin retiring, the NJPW US website crashing, the Wrestling World 2024 in Taiwan, Stardom becomes fully owned subsidiary of NJPW, Jon Moxley wins the IWGP World title, NJPW reveals the IWGP committee members, Jake Lee signs, and then Wrestle Dynasty, the new co-promoted Tokyo Dome show.
You forgot that X was Robbie X.
Oh man, darn it! that could have been angle of the year.
A lot of big news stories, maybe not as noteworthy as a few of the other years. We've had some turbulent years, so maybe things have equaled out a little bit, but we still had some big defections. We had some big appointments in Tanahashi. A lot of maybe negative business things going on with like the website and some of the other business metrics. And yeah, there's some great news stories there. I wonder what's going to resonate the most with the fans. I think I voted Tanahashi number 1, but I could see it's hard to deny Ospreay, Okada, and Tama Tonga. Specifically, it's hard to deny Okada leaving as not being one of the biggest news stories ever. So it's going to be a tough one there.
Yeah, right now, Ospreay, Okada, and Tama leaving. It's a clear number one with Tanahashi being right after those guys. That's also a big blow. I know they're kind of lumped together, but yeah, that was a huge kind of 1, 2, 3 blow of your top domestic star, your top foreign star, and then a guy that was a key member of Bullet Club and has been in the company for such a long time, all leaving right in the beginning of the year. Really
Why didn't your list include Tangaloa and Tala Tonga?
Well, they left at different periods of the year. Tangaloa left, I think, after like New Japan Cup.
Tala Tonga
left after like Dominion, I think. So Ospreay, Okada, and Tama are like the same month. So that's your news story of the year. And then last but not least, the excursion match of the year. So we have Rocky Romero versus Mascara Dorada. We have Danielson versus Kingston. Mayu versus Shuri. Mochizuki versus Shingo. Alexander versus Ospreay. Brooks and ZSJ versus 47 Kamina. The Tuckman versus Robbie Eagles. Mayu versus Saray. Ishii versus Kitamiya, Kid versus Kiyomiya, Hechicero versus GSJ from June, the Torneo Cibernetico, and then the Hechicero ZSJ from August.
Yeah, there's a lot of greatness on that list. This is also one of my favorite awards that we do. I know it's not, it's maybe a little bit nerdy because it's the matches that are not happening under New Japan's banner, but that include New Japan contracted talent and New Japan, champions outside of the company. And we track this stuff all year so we can try and provide you guys with this list. It was really tough there was a lot of great matches that happened this year that we did have to cut. And it was a really difficult decision. And this is the list we ended up producing for you guys. And it's always one of the things that I'm proudest that we do, even if we never hear very much from anybody about it. But I think it's one of the coolest things because if you're looking for a comprehensive list of fantastic matches that have occurred in this calendar year outside of the company involving New Japan, like this is your go-to. Like these 10 or 12 matches, if you want to watch some of the best stuff that's out there, go watch this. And it's probably stuff you missed, but it's well worth it to go find this stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that's really deserving. Off the top of my head, I feel like if there's enough Joshi heads, then the Mayu matches really could have a strong candidacy to win this. But I don't know if enough people have seen those. The Ospreay Alexander match, it happened right before Ospreay left the company, and that's another one where it's like really, 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 really outstanding. And then there's the two Hechicero Zack Sabre Jr. matches that could split the vote, but I could see one of those maybe kind of taking away. It's tough. There's a lot of great stuff on the list.
Yeah, there was a lot of really great stuff. A lot of really great stuff that we cut. There was only so much that we can put on here. So again, this is a great list of matches to watch, during the end of the year, getting ready for Wrestle Kingdom. Right now, the Hechicero DSJ from June and Danielson versus Kingston. I think that was from World's End last year. Those are the two favorites right now.
Yeah, Danielson Kingston had several highly rated matches during the grading period while Eddie Kingston was still strong champion, all kind of occurring around. Actually, they had two matches in the C2 against one another. And then later on, Eddie defended the Continental Crown, which included the strong openweight title against Bryan. And so there were three that were in the grading period, and we cut it down to the one that was the most highly received. And I think that's the one on the pay-per-view. That was the semifinal. That was, or I don't know if it was on the pay-per-view, but it was the semifinal one that got him into the league final or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And that one's like blow away. That's all. That match is kind of forgotten too. And it's so fucking good.
Yeah, that's great stuff. But clearly, our listeners have not forgotten it. They're showing it a lot of love there. So that is the ballot for the 8th annual awards. The link will be in the podcast description all over our social media. So if you have not voted yet, go on and vote. You have until January 8th to vote. So still plenty of time for somebody that likes to do your homework and rewatch stuff. You have plenty of time to rewatch, get your votes in. And so get those votes in. Definitely, the voting, we had like a big increase in voters every year, and then New Japan kind of fell off and our voters went down a little bit. And last 2 years, we've kind of seen a slow upswing again. So I definitely want this year to continue that upward momentum and beat out some of our old records in the number of people voting. So please get out there.
Well, Jeremy, I want to thank us for everything that we do. And I know the audience does too. So they can, this is the opportunity for them to thank us for all that we do in the year and give us some money. So you got the links, you got the red circle, you got the show links. You go ahead, buy yourself a shirt. It's cold outside. Get yourself a sweater. We got but no, we thank you guys for everything that you do. And that's our awards.
Yeah. A few quick news items here. We do have the 4th woman in the International Women's Cup decided from Stardom. So Momo Watanabe won a tournament over the weekend. So it'll be Momo versus Athena versus Will Nightingale versus Persephone in that International Women's Cup at Wrestle Dynasty. Then we have House of Tortures, Sho and Kanemaru. They will be challenging Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara for the ROH tag team titles at Wrestle Dynasty. That's a match that I don't think anybody asked for.
I can't wait for that one. That's going to be great.
And then an update on the Sumi Sakai retirement match. So this is going to be Team Hiromu versus Team Sumi Sakai in this retirement 6-man match. So Hiromu's team is set. It's going to be Hiromu, Mayu Iwatani, and just announced Yuka Sakazaki.
Magical girl.
Yeah, so Hiromu's team is locked in, and Sumi Sakai still has to pick her 2 partners to go against.
She should pick like Kane and Undertaker.
Oh boy.
Just show up and wreck shit,
Yeah, choke slam Mayu.
It's intergender. No one said the limit on how many,
Well, yeah, I think she'll probably end up picking at least one guy to combat Hiromu.
Well, Fale.
Fale and Caveman Ugg.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, get those 2.
So I know we're running super long here. There were some questions that were sent in. Do you want to kick?
Let's kick them.
All right. So those questions will be punted to next week, where we will preview Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. Chris Samsa will be joining us to preview both of those big shows. So go out, vote in the awards, download FOH, and get ready for our big Wrestle Kingdom preview next week. And so that's going to wrap it up. Remember, if you want
to do it.
Yeah. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. Same on Blue Sky. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Y'all just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me at jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Oh, 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 O'Reilly Auto Parts.